When I was 10, I fell into a vegetative state after saving my brother and slept for a full decade. When I woke up, there was suddenly a fake heiress in the family, clinging to my brother's arm. She said with feigned concern, "Mom, Dad, sister is 20 now. She has no education, no connections. What will become of her?" Just like that, with her manipulative, sweet-talking ways. My parents' attitude towards me took a sharp turn for the worse, and even my brother grew to despise me. It would have been better if you had died 10 years ago, rather than being a useless burden on the whole family now. Later, I caught my brother and the fake heiress in bed together late at night. In a panic, my brother pushed me from the top of the stairs, and I fell to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the year I turned 10, watching my brother tumble down the stairs. A thought crossed my mind. Does this mean I can get a new one? Shen Jiajing, you've got some nerve, don't you dare run. How dare you hit on my girl, you bastard, you're dead. The thug's furious roar echoed from behind my brother, around 13 or 14, was a hot-headed idiot. When he turned and saw 4 or 5 punks behind him, his first instinct wasn't to run, but to stand his ground and talk back. Don't think I'm scared just because you brought more guys. Come at me, all of you. If I so much as flinch today, my name isn't Shinjiajing. Can't even keep an eye on your own girl, whose fault is that? If I were you, I'd just go find a place to hang myself. Trash. Before my brother could finish his tirade, the lead thug's eyes were already blazing with rage. The red brick in his hand came flying straight at my brother. It missed, shattering a nearby window instead. My brother snapped to his senses and immediately bolted into the alley. Brother, that's a dead end. Run this way. In this life, I peeked out from the same crossroads, and my brother, electrified, sprinted in the direction I pointed. But in my previous life, my face had been a mask of pure terror and dread. In this life, a faint, knowing smile played on my lips. The thugs didn't bother with a 10-year-old girl like me, they went after my brother instead. Strawberry really is the best flavor for a lollipop. With the lollipop in my mouth, I ambled along behind them. I watched as my brother desperately tried to flee, only to be caught by the thugs in the end. In my past life, if I hadn't bought him time by holding them off, how could he have possibly escaped without a scratch? If he had possessed even a shred of conscience and called an ambulance after those hoodlums pushed me down the stairs, I would never have spent 10 years as a vegetable. When I finally regained consciousness, I had jumped from age 10 to 20, my entire youth. Those precious years meant for studying and striving had been stolen from me. Any decent person would be racked with guilt toward their savior, thinking of ways to make amends. They would never humiliate, beat, torture, and finally end my life with their own hands. Right, a person wouldn't, but a beast would, too. Keep running. Why'd you stop? You had a lot to say before. Cat got your tongue now. The thugs had beaten my brother black and blue, leaving him covered in blood. When my brother saw me, a fierce glint flashed in his eyes, which were swollen to mere slits. Sis, help me. The thugs eyed me warily. I gave a slight smile. Don't mind me, just passing through. With that, I ambled off at a leisurely pace, but in that very instant, my brother seized the opportunity, shoved the thugs aside, and charged forward. The stairs were steep, and with the recent rain, they were slick with moss, beautiful and perilous. Right before my eyes, my brother tumbled down the stairs. I watched as the back of his head struck the stone with a sickening, sharp crack. The thugs scattered in a panic, fleeing in an instant. I walked over to my brother, who lay in a pool of blood, with deliberate calm. He looked at me in agony, his voice a faint whisper. Sis, call 120, help me. I bent down, leaning over him, a wild and unrestrained smile playing on my lips. If you call 120, the police will definitely get involved. Then Mom and Dad will find out you got into another fight with those punks, and you'll get a beating. Brother, stop pretending, get up already. I'm heading home first. Okay. My brother shouted urgently and angrily. Shani, are you trying to get me killed? I curled my lips into a cold smile, my eyes filled with mockery. I merely repeated the very words he said to me in our past life. Why are you so triggered? So he knew all along that leaving him here would mean death. Then why did he do it without a shred of guilt in our past life? By the time I got home, it was already dark, but Mom and Dad still weren't back, because they were so busy with work. At first, they said it was so my brother and I could afford to go to school. Then, they said they wanted to get a Better car, finally. They talked about moving to a bigger house so we could all be more comfortable. My parents' desires can never be satisfied, so it wasn't until it was completely dark, when my parents came home from working overtime, that they realized my brother was missing. I have a lot more conscience than my brother. At least I gave them a specific location. After school, I think I saw my brother go into the alley behind the school with a bunch of troublemakers. My brother told me not to go to that place, but I snuck over there once. I saw them smoking, fighting, and even kissing girls. I've looked everywhere else. It's just this one place I don't dare go. 03 Mom and Dad stormed out of the house, still muttering curses under their breath. He swore that once he found him, he'd break his legs. What a terrible kid, going down the wrong path at such a young age. But when he saw his brother lying in a pool of blood, he nearly fainted from shock and rushed him to the hospital. Compared to my past life, my brother was taken to the hospital 12 minutes earlier this time. As a result, my brother didn't fall into a vegetative coma. Instead, his mental capacity regressed to that of a 6-year-old child. Those damn thugs, why don't they just drop dead? Mom's eyes were swollen from crying as she cursed and raged, venting her fury and frustration. Dad roared in anger. What's the use of yelling now? If you had been home watching the child, would Jingjing have gotten hurt? This is all your fault as the mother. Mom didn't dare to get angry at Dad, so she took her frustration out on me instead. Shani, your brother is out so late and you've looked everywhere else. Did it never occur to you to check that alley? Don't you know what the doctor said? If we had found him just half an hour earlier, he wouldn't have ended up like this. I lowered my gaze, hiding the mockery in my eyes. Of course I knew. That's exactly why I sent Mom and Dad to look for him at that time. The reason I stopped at 12 minutes early wasn't out of any mercy for my brother. It's because 12 minutes is the threshold, the line between becoming a vegetable and just turning into a drooling idiot. If he became a complete vegetable, he wouldn't feel a damn thing. There's no way in hell a piece of shit like him gets to sleep peacefully for 10 years. Not a chance. After spending a week in the hospital, my brother was brought home. Now that Mom and Dad have finally secured an investment, why on earth would they give it up? It was the perfect time to prove themselves, so they were out early and back late every day. Although they did hire a live-in nurse to look after my brother. A 6-year-old boy is at that age where even the dogs want nothing to do with him. He would spit at his nanny and even cut off her hair while she was asleep. On another occasion, he skinned the neighbor's dog and hung it on the front gate. The neighbor called the police immediately. My parents had to step out of their most crucial meeting to deal with this. I'm so sorry. Truly, I'll pay for the dog, whatever it costs. My mother was groveling as she apologized to the neighbor. The neighbor snapped angrily. This isn't about the money. Your son is a pervert. If he's such a goddamn idiot, he should be locked up at home and never let out. Today it was my dog he hurt. Tomorrow it could be a person. An animal is an animal. 04. When we got home, my parents gave my brother a good beating. They had never felt so humiliated in their entire lives, but it was too late. Our neighbor, a newspaper executive, got the story published. Mom and Dad became famous, and all the deals they had lined up fell through. The homeowners in our neighborhood all signed a petition demanding our family move out. Where on earth would we get the money to move now? Mom was so anxious her lips were covered in blisters, and Dad was so worried he smoked all day. Yet my brother, acting like a complete fool, crawled under the table and knocked all the dishes to the floor, and even deliberately defecated on our parents' bed. Amidst all this family chaos and uproar, I slowly spoke up. Mom, Dad, maybe we should send my brother to live in the countryside. The countryside has a better environment. It's good for my brother's health, and you two can focus on your careers without worry. Otherwise, we won't have the money to treat him later. My parents agreed immediately. They contacted an old friend in the countryside and drove him there that very afternoon. When they took him away, they even made a point of parading him around the neighborhood so everyone would know he was gone. Only then did my parents settle back in here with me. I then suggested that my parents sincerely apologize to the neighbors with gifts and even compensate them with an even cuter puppy. Our neighbors are good people. Seeing our family's hardship, they forgave my parents. Not only did they clear my parents' name in the newspaper, but they also praised them for being reasonable. It was quite decent of them. As a result, the previously withdrawn investment came back. That's the power of public opinion. With my guidance, My parents' careers have been smooth sailing, and their investments have never incurred a loss. They consider me their lucky star and indulge my every wish. I didn't let them down either, achieving the top score in the city's high school entrance exam, which made my parents incredibly proud. So I suggested, Mom, Dad, my birthday is in a couple of days. How about throwing me a birthday party? A lot of my classmates want to come, and some of their parents are also in business. You could all share experiences and network. Their eyes lit up the moment they heard that. Mom was so pleased she gave me a kiss on the forehead. That's my girl. I knew you were brilliant. My cheeks flushed slightly with pride as I said, I get it all from you and Mom. That's why I'm so great. That made them even happier. 05. The birthday party serves two purposes. The first is for my parents to introduce me into their social circle, so everyone gets to know me that way. Even if my brother comes back, he won't be able to easily take my place. The second purpose is to find someone to take my brother's place. I'm so envious that you have such a clever daughter like Yi, top grades, well-behaved, and incredibly sensible. The apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. By the way, you really need to be careful. It's best to have someone drive her to and from school. A friend of mine had their child kidnapped. The $1 million ransom wasn't even the worst part. The real tragedy was that they paid, but the child never came back. Exactly, you only have the one daughter. If something really happened, you'd have nowhere to turn and no tears left to cry. The smiles on my parents' faces instantly turned to looks of concern. They owe most of what they have now to me. Besides, my brother is a lost cause, and at their age, having another child isn't really feasible. So after the banquet, my parents sat me down for a serious talk. From now on, we'll hire a driver to take you to and from school every day, and you must keep your smartwatch on you at all times, understand? I blinked innocently. Are you guys worried I might get kidnapped? Mom nodded and recounted to me what my classmate's mother had said today. I listened intently and said, Mom, Dad, I think you're absolutely right, but that's just treating the symptoms, not the root cause. I've heard that many wealthy families adopt a son specifically to act as a shield against misfortune for their biological children. How about we adopt an older brother? That way, not only would I be protected, but we'd also get a good reputation for charity. My parents' eyes lit up the moment they heard it, and they agreed on the spot. How could they possibly refuse such a win-win-win deal? They told me to take my time this summer and find one I truly like. Of course, the brother fate handed me was a defective product. The one I find for myself must be a work of art. This summer was hectic. I visited every orphanage in the city. Finally, just 3 days before school started, I found a new brother who ticked all my boxes. He's a year older than me, with fair skin, wavy flaxen hair, and is of mixed heritage. His mother was a foreigner, and his father was a successful businessman. They were a happy family. But a tragic car accident left him as the sole survivor. Many people wanted to adopt him, but he turned them all down. After all, a boy with such striking looks could face a real disaster if he ended up with a family that had ill intentions. My family, however, is absolutely perfect. My parents are well off and incredibly busy with work, constantly flying all over the country. I'm the only daughter at home, and I'm quite sweet and well-behaved. 6. Shanibai, that's my new brother's name. That's wonderful. From now on, just make yourself at home here. Please don't stand on ceremony. My parents were very pleased with her, so they took her to change her name that very day. Shanibai spoke very little, a man of few words, with deep, melancholy eyes. I asked him, are you missing your parents? He looked at me, hesitated for a moment, and then nodded. Since I was the one there to adopt him, and we were about the same age, he trusted me more than the others. I began to speak complete nonsense with a perfectly straight face. Your parents went ahead to make more money, so when you join them later, you can live in a big house, eat good food, and be well taken care of. Do you understand? They work during the day and rest at night. You know, when you're thinking of them, they're thinking of you too. The stars are their home. When you see a star twinkling at you, that's really them looking back. Shinibai's long eyelashes fluttered, and a glimmer of starlight sparkled in his clear eyes. Do you think it's true? I nodded earnestly. Of course. Why would I lie to you? There's nothing to gain from it. A smile touched Shinibai's lips, and the shadow of melancholy lifted from his expression. Then I'll study hard, eat well, and keep healthy so Mom and Dad won't have to worry about me. This new brother of mine was so easy to please. Shanibai and I attended the same high school. He was a natural-born center of attention. Even in an elite high school brimming with talent, he still managed to stand out from the crowd, perhaps because I'd seen too many cheerful, sunny boys. It was his brooding, melancholic demeanor that I found all the more captivating. In just over half a month since starting school, he had already received over 1,000 love letters. Among them were the children of high-ranking officials and wealthy businesspeople. Sorry, I just want to focus on my studies in high school. Shanibai had no interest in wasting his time on them, but I was different. I could balance my studies while also building a social network, often inviting them over to my house to hang out. We even had Shanibai model for us so we could paint him, with the lawn, the garden, the delicious food, and handsome boys and pretty girls in the prime of their youth. How could it not be wonderful? In such a situation, the parents of these children naturally began socializing more frequently, which helped take my parents' company to the next level. Mom and Dad were quite pleased with Shanibai. They even gave him the large room that originally belonged to his older brother. Gradually, he began to truly take his brother's place in the family. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Both Shanibai and I attended University A, which was near our homes. This was also the university my brother attended in his previous life. As his grades only met the threshold for this school, the only reason I studied here was for the convenience of attending classes while also working at my parents' company. As for Shanibai, being the dutiful older brother and bodyguard that he is, it was only natural he'd stick to me like glue. On my very first day at school, I saw a girl muttering to herself right outside the classroom door. That can't be right. Shouldn't Shani be in a vegetative state? What is she doing here? Shen Jiajing should be a junior here by all accounts. How come I can't find her anywhere in the whole school? How strange. Could I have remembered it wrong? She wore a beige spaghetti strap mini dress, with her hair in a cute bun, looking utterly charming. This whole look was exactly my brother's type. I knew this person all too well. Guayin, the fake heiress. In my past life, she and my brother pushed me off the building. She was one of the real murderers who caused my death. What a coincidence. She's been reborn too. Even more coincidentally, I had people searching for her for ages with no luck, and now she's just waltzed right in. Shani, where's your brother? Guayin saw me and blocked my path, looking utterly self-righteous. A flash of contemptuous disdain in her eyes. In her past life, she never even looked at me properly, so she's just used to talking to me like this. Seeing that I didn't respond, she shoved me impatiently. Are you deaf? Can't you hear me talking to you? I raised my hand and slapped her right across the face. Instantly, a vivid red handprint bloomed on her cheek, and my manicured nail had split the skin of her lip, drawing blood. I raised my voice, my tone icy with scorn. Didn't your parents teach you any manners? Over the years, my brother has had no shortage of suitors. If not 1,000, then at least 800, and you are, by far, the most pathetic of the lot. When it comes to grades, I'm this year's top scorer in the National College entrance exam. As for family background, everything you're wearing combined isn't worth one of my shoes. What gives you the right to speak to me like that? The words landed with force, and instantly a crowd of curious classmates gathered around. A few of them were actually my former friends, and they immediately chimed in. Holy crap, in this day and age, trash like that actually dares to chase after your brother. Seriously, girl, if you don't have a mirror, you must at least have some self-awareness. If you took a good look at yourself once in a while, you wouldn't be acting like this. Talk about being delusional and having high hopes with a face like that. 08. Guayin's face flushed bright red, yet she declared with unwavering certainty, so what if I'm average looking? Your brother is definitely going to like me. Instantly, a wave of mocking laughter erupted from the classmates. They've all seen my brother. He just showed his face on registration day and ended up causing a crowd so big it blocked the teaching building. Everyone thought he was some kind of celebrity. Excuse me, could you not insult me, please? Just then, Shanibai sauntered out of the classroom across the hall, hands in his pockets. He was dressed simply in ripped jeans and a white t-shirt, yet looked impossibly handsome. Who are you? Guayin immediately began to stammer. The classmates instantly switched into mockery mode. Who else could it be? It's the very person you just bragged would definitely fall for you. Look at that lovesick expression. She's practically drooling. Hearing her talk so earnestly, I almost thought she actually had some connection with Shinibai. Are you kidding me? Don't insult Shinibai like that, okay? Gua-in froze, pointing at me and asking, Shani, is this your brother? I smiled with playful mockery. Of course. If he's not my brother, then who is he? Yours. You were just desperately searching for my brother, and now you're playing hard to get. Another wave of laughter erupted. Gua-in said urgently, impossible. How could he be your brother? Shen Jiajing is clearly your brother. I curled my lips into a teasing smile. Oh, you mean that idiot. He's in the countryside getting treatment. Gua-in was utterly dumbfounded, muttering to herself, how could he have become a fool? He couldn't have. What am I supposed to do now? I looked at her with contempt, switching into full mockery mode. My brother suffered brain damage from a fight as a child and has the intellect of a 6-year-old, and you still wouldn't leave him alone. These days, some female students would sell out anything for a little money. But sorry, even though my brother has lost his wits, he's still not for the likes of you to touch. A burst of enthusiastic applause and cheers erupted instantly. Gua-in shot me a fierce glare. Shani, just you wait, I'll make you regret this. I crossed my arms, a cold sneer on my lips as I watched her shove through the crowd and flee in disgrace. In my past life, she only got the upper hand because she caught me off guard after my decade-long coma. This time around, let's see what she's got to use against me. 9. Who is she? Shanibai asked me curiously. I blinked, smiling gently. Oh, are you interested in her? Shanibai affectionately ruffled my hair, sounding a bit helpless as he said, it's just the first time I've seen you dislike someone this much. I raised an eyebrow slightly. Huh? Is it that obvious? He nodded with a smile. Yeah, your disgust is practically spilling out of your eyes. They say there are 3 things in this world you can't hide: a cough, poverty, and love, but I think we can add a 4th, hatred. I'm an anti-bullying advocate. In both middle school and high school, I stood up for and protected many students who were being bullied. But Gua-in was an exception. She was a freshman in the arts program. The only people who enroll in that major are either loaded or crazy, but clearly, Gua-in was the latter. Her family background was as ordinary as it gets, and that degree leads to absolutely zero job prospects. In her past life, she was a finance major. This time around, I guess she figured she'd just marry my brother anyway. So she slacked off in high school and ended up getting placed into the art department. What a coincidence. The art department is full of friends of mine and my brother's. That afternoon, I invited them out for tea and casually mentioned what had happened in the morning. They were immediately up in arms about it. They're all a bunch of privileged young ladies with endless time, energy, and connections to spare. The moment Gua-in stepped into the classroom, she found herself cornered right at the doorway. What do you know about art appreciation, or jewelry design? How many galleries have you even been to? Ever set foot in an auction house? And you dare to waltz into the art department? Tisk, TSK, TSK, the bar for art these days is pathetically low. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry thinks they can just waltz right in. So that's the sour smell on you. It's the stench of poverty. The classroom erupted in uproarious laughter. No one spoke up for Gua-in. In fact, an eager classmate even closed the back door to keep the teacher from seeing. Everyone was part of the same social circle, more or less. Even if they didn't know each other personally, they'd heard the names, so it was important to stay on good terms. With their special care, Gua-in's school life was predictably miserable. Back in the dorm, it was even worse than death. She was often locked in the bathroom, her bed was always wet, her new clothes were full of holes, and there was some strange liquid in her face wash. She couldn't take it anymore and finally went to see her counselor. In the end, the other girls in the dorm all pointed the finger at her in unison, accusing her of stealing and claiming she had a bad character. Not only did Gua-in fail to get any help, but she almost received a formal disciplinary mark on her record. As a result, she had no choice but to rent a place off campus. But with little money, the place she rented was in a rough neighborhood. I would occasionally send some burly men to knock on her door by mistake, leaving her on edge and terrified every night. By the end of the semester, she had lost a ton of weight, her eyes were sunken, and she looked completely worn out, and on top of that, she failed 4 courses. 10. Gua-in is quite resourceful. She managed to track down my brother out in the countryside. After realizing my brother had genuinely lost his mind, he didn't give up. Instead, he managed to build a rapport with him and brought him home at the New Year's Eve dinner. My parents were startled by the sudden appearance of Shin Jiajing. He was a short man, standing at about 5'7", with a dark complexion, a flat nose, and a hideous scar running down the left side of his face. It seemed like he hadn't brushed his teeth in centuries. His breath was enough to knock you out. "Mom, Dad, I finally found you," my brother cried out excitedly, rushing forward to hug our mom and planting a kiss on her cheek. "Ugh, let go of me, get off me, you lunatic." Mom was desperately trying to break free, but my brother, mistaking her struggle for excitement, only held her tighter. Only when he saw Mom's eyes roll back did Dad snap out of it, roaring in fury, "Enough, you brute, are you trying to smother your own mother?" My brother's face instantly drained of color. He dropped to his knees with a thud, kowtowing frantically and begging for forgiveness. The air was thick with a foul, acrid stench. My brother was so terrified he lost control of his bladder and bowels. Even Gua Yin couldn't take it anymore. Backing away several steps, her eyes filled with utter disgust. She managed to force a faint, strained smile onto her face. "Uncle, Auntie, while I was visiting the countryside, I happened to come across your son. It was heartbreaking to see him sleeping in a pigsty in the dead of winter, fighting for scraps of dog food, and being beaten and humiliated by the villagers. I couldn't bear to leave him like that. Once I confirmed he was your child, I brought him back with me immediately to spare him any further abuse. It's a good thing it was me who found your son." If someone with ill intentions had reported this, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Her words were masterfully crafted, a blend of veiled threat and calculated flattery. Mom and Dad exchanged a look. Their expressions were grim, but they still let my brother stay. She shot me a smug, challenging grin. The corners of my mouth lifted into a meaningful smile. She can't seriously believe the villagers' abuse of my brother was all accidental. Most of it was my doing. The pay is generous, with only one condition: you must stay alive. Desperate places breed desperate people, so they readily agreed. Seeing that my brother could be bullied without consequence, everyone else naturally wanted to take a kick at him too. 11. Gua Yin moved into the house openly and without shame. She was a clever one. For the first couple of weeks, she kept a low profile, only stepping in to calm her brother down the moment he started causing trouble. Thanks to her past life experiences, she knew exactly what our parents liked, so she won them over in no time. When I got back from working overtime on the weekend, I saw her returning from a shopping trip with Mom. The living room was filled with their haul. Mom happily shared with me, "When you're free, let's go shopping together." Een has really good taste. She's emotionally intelligent and articulate, keeping us all in stitches the whole time. Sometimes you really should learn a thing or two from Een. A girl should still have a certain ladylike quality about her. Gua Yin shot me a smug smile, all the while maintaining her gentle, sweet facade. "It's mainly because you're so naturally beautiful, with a great figure and wonderful poise. You're a born clothes horse. Everything looks good on you." My mom couldn't stop smiling when she heard that, and she complimented her a few more times. Gua Yin's grin stretched from ear to ear. The moment my mom went upstairs to rest, she started gloating. "Shen Yi, are you shocked that I won your family over so quickly? Well, get ready to be even more shocked, because you'll be kicked out of here soon." I toyed with the diamond-encrusted watch on my wrist, worth over 4 million. I smiled with utter contempt and disdain. "What gives you the right to kick me out? Just because you've been fawning over my parents and my idiot brother like a dog? Get this straight. You came to this house to be a dog. Don't start thinking you're somebody just because my mother throws you a few scraps." Gua Yin's face flushed crimson with rage, her eyes brimming with pure malice. "What nonsense are you spouting? You're just jealous that your parents like me more than they like you." I licked my lips and said tauntingly, "I'm their daughter by birth. I don't have to do a thing for them to adore me. So your grand plan is to marry my brother and become the lady of the house, is it? You really overestimate that idiot. He's a complete waste of space. The family company will definitely be mine to inherit, but if you manage to butter me up and put me in a good mood, I might, just might, be willing to let you stick around." 12. Bullshit. There's no way a girl like you could ever inherit the company. Gua Yin was so furious that a vein bulged on her forehead, clearly struggling to contain her rage. "Of course, in our past life, she always looked down on me and talked down to me. In this life, She's been constantly outshone by me. How could she possibly accept that or be content? I let out a scornful laugh. On my 18th birthday, my parents gifted me 20% of the company's shares. The company's anniversary is in 2 months. That's when they'll announce me as the successor. My advice: milk my idiot brother for all he's worth while he still listens to you. Get your money now, or you'll be kicked out with nothing and end up sleeping under a bridge. Guo Yin's face turned ashen. She spoke through gritted teeth, her voice dripping with venom. Impossible. I will absolutely not be driven out, and you will absolutely not inherit the company. Just you wait. After saying that, she rushed impatiently to my brother's room. Soon, the sounds of a couple making love could be heard from inside the room. Aren't you afraid that provoking her like this will make her do something outrageous at the anniversary celebration? Shenibai's brow furrowed slightly, a rare look of confusion crossing his face. He's a genius, with an absurdly high IQ. Whenever I'm stuck on a tricky problem or a project proposal, he can pinpoint the crux of the issue with just a glance. However, when it comes to understanding human nature, he's a bit less adept than I am. What else? Why do you think I said all that to her? There's only one thing she can do: get pregnant with my brother's child. Honestly, waiting a year or so would be the smart move. But she's convinced my parents are going to name me the heir in 2 months. That's why she's panicking. My deranged idiot brother and that gold-digging social climber, Guo Yin, just thinking about them makes me look forward to the anniversary celebration even more. Shenibai gave a slight nod. That does sound like it'll be quite the spectacle. This is the brother I chose for myself. Even if I tore a hole in the sky, he'd only worry about whether I got hurt. Handsome, brilliant, and a great earner. But all the money he makes goes to me. Good thing I moved fast to snag such a top-tier brother. My brother got a taste of a woman and started pestering Guo Yin all day long. He would often tear her clothes off regardless of the setting, be it the living room, the kitchen, or even the garden of the villa. Luckily, our parents were away on a business trip abroad during that time, so they never saw it. Don't look, it'll soil your eyes. Shenibai covered my eyes from behind and said with displeasure, an animal is an animal. After all, it has no sense of time or place. This was the first time I'd ever heard him speak so harshly, but the description was spot on. An animal is an animal. 13. The day before the anniversary celebration, my parents returned from their business trip abroad. Guo Yin dragged my brother to wait at the entrance for over half an hour in advance. Uncle, Auntie, you must be tired from the journey. My parents smiled and nodded, saying, that's very thoughtful of you. Guo Yin wrapped her arm around her mother's, cozily and affectionately, acting spoiled, saying my brother had been very well behaved lately. No wonder they're a match made in heaven. In my past life, my brother killed me for her sake. In this life, my brother's a fool, but he still listens to Guo Yin without question. It wasn't until our parents had settled down to rest in the living room that Shenibai and I finally ambled downstairs. Mom waved at us with a cheerful smile. I was just about to have Auntie Zhang fetch you. The collaboration went smoothly, so I brought back a little gift for each of you. With that, she handed each of us a gift box, including one for Guo Yin. I am a crocodile skin handbag worth $1 million. Shenibai's gift was also a high-end custom watch valued in the millions. Guo Yin looked at our gifts and then excitedly opened her own. It was a peacock brooch, inlaid with gemstones and the latest model of the year. It's only worth 70,000. Instantly, the smile froze on her face. Guo Yin, why have you gone quiet? Is it the gift from my parents? Don't you like it? The corner of my mouth lifted in a mocking smile. She knows my mom better than I do. For her, the price tag on a gift is the measure of her love. No matter how much affection she shows day to day, the gift itself is the ultimate expression of her feelings. The more she gloated before, the harder she's eating her words now. No, it's just that I like it so much. I was caught completely off guard. Guo Yin forced a faint smile. Mom nodded with a smile. As long as you like it. By the way, you and Ibai are giving speeches at tomorrow's anniversary celebration. Are your drafts ready? I nodded confidently. Of course. Ibai and I have given so many speeches since we were kids. We could improvise one on the spot if we had to. Mother's face was beaming with pride. Guo Yin subtly straightened her flat stomach, her eyes glinting with calculation, and was just about to speak. I cut in ahead of her. Mom, Dad, is my brother going tomorrow? Father frowned and said dismissively, what would he be going for? I lifted my gaze. casting a scornful glance at Guiyin's livid face, and offered a provocative smile. She glared at me viciously, her eyes filled with pure malice. I curled my lips into a cold sneer. Did she really think her recent efforts to cozy up to mom and dad could ever replace the standing that Shinibai and I have? They are business people. Profit is their top priority. Professionally speaking, I secured 2/3 of the company's projects myself, and my connections and resources are superior to theirs on a personal level. I am their daughter, raised by their own hands, although my brother is the son. He's long been a lost cause. They never even considered him as an heir. Of course, if it were my brother's child, mom and dad would definitely be thrilled, but the timing of when they find out this news absolutely cannot be tomorrow. 14. Are you really that confident she's going to come and sabotage your speech later? Seeing that I hadn't prepared a speech at all, Shinibai raised an eyebrow and inquired. I took an elegant sip of champagne and declared with certainty, of course, I can't speak for others, but her, I know her all too well. Speak of the devil. Guayin showed up with my brother, holding the invitation I had deliberately left on the table. She was being quite cautious, sneaking off to a corner with my brother in tow, but it was my brother's first time at an event like this, so of course he couldn't just sit still. He started fussing for food, forcing Guayin to settle him on a sofa while she went to fetch some, and that's when my brother caused trouble. A woman in a dress similar to Guiyin's walked past him, mistaking her for Guayin. He immediately hugged her from behind out of habit. He even reached out to grope her. Slap, you pervert. Furious, his female colleague slapped him across the face and then threw the glass of red wine in her hand all over him. A normal man would have let it go at that, but my brother is a 6-year-old with an intellectual disability. If someone hits him, he's naturally going to hit back. He's stronger than most, and with one slap he sent the female employee staggering back several steps, knocking all the glasses off the nearby table. It all shattered with a deafening crash. The noise was ear-splitting. Everyone turned to look in unison. My brother was so terrified by the tremendous noise that he froze and wet himself. Seeing this, Dad's veins bulged on his forehead in fury. You little bastard. Who told you to come here? Get out. Get the hell out of here right now. Guayin hurriedly spoke up to stop them. Uncle. Auntie, he's your own son. How can you treat him like this? Instantly, the room erupted in an uproar. A glint of triumphant calculation flashed in Guiyin's eyes. She intended to use public pressure to force her parents to accept him. Uncle, Auntie, we're here today to share some wonderful news. The doctor confirmed it's a boy. Aren't you happy to be a grandfather? The Shen family finally has an heir. You can't give the company to Shen Yi. She's just a girl. A married daughter is like spilled water. As she spoke, she pulled out the ultrasound scan from her pocket and shoved it into her mother's hand in agitation. Her mother reached out, but not to take the ultrasound report. Instead, she slapped her across the face. Who do you think you are? You have no right to meddle in our family affairs. Security, throw both of them out. 15. Guayin covered her face, staring at her mother in disbelief. She couldn't understand why the mother who had loved her brother so dearly in their past life had now become so cold and heartless. The answer is simple. Parents always love the child who benefits them the most. Clearly, in this life, that child is me. Don't you dare hit my wife. My brother saw mom hitting Guayin, and without a second thought, he rushed over and punched her right in the face, breaking her nose. Blood gushed out instantly. Dad was furious. He charged at my brother and started beating him up. You're a monster. How could you hit your own mother? I should have strangled you at birth. My brother was terrified of our father and initially didn't dare fight back, but when he saw our furious mother grab Guayin by the hair and start beating her, a surge of strength came from nowhere. He shoved our father aside, rushed over, and pinned our mother down to hit her. It was absolute chaos, a real spectacle. Tisk, tsk, tsk, what a brutal scene. A mocking smile played on my lips as I watched the whole scene unfold, completely transfixed. It is a bit gory, so I brought you a fruit salad to cut through the richness. Shinibai thoughtfully handed me the fruit platter. I had directed all the company's security guards to the garage, so by the time the police arrived, all 4 of them were lying in a pool of blood. Even the doctor was horrified at the sight of their gruesome condition. It's real, a bloody mess. There was an ear on the ground, chewed to pieces. No telling whose it was. Case closed. The good news is, the ear was mom's. The bad news is, there's no point in Reattaching it, my mother's spine was shattered, leaving her paralyzed for life. Whether she could hear or not made no difference anymore. My father suffered a comminuted skull fracture. They tried to save him for 3 hours, but he didn't make it. My brother broke 13 ribs, which nearly punctured his lung. His right hand was shattered, and his mind was completely gone. He became a madman. Guain had a miscarriage. Her uterus was removed, her right kidney ruptured, and she was left disfigured. What a shame, out of a family of 4, only one kicked the bucket. I gave my father a lavish funeral. Everyone in our circle praised me for my filial piety. Of course, I was the primary beneficiary. After all, the shares, the house, the cars, the overseas assets, they're all mine now. My father is a power-hungry man. Who knows when he'd actually hand everything over to me? Well, now it's all settled in one fell swoop. I even went to visit Guain in the hospital, bringing a bouquet of chrysanthemums. You bitch, this is all your fault. Get out. Guain, lying in the hospital bed, roared in fury. I smiled and said, no, you don't. If I leave, who's going to pay your medical bills? I warned you out of the goodness of my heart to squeeze more money out of my brother, but you wouldn't listen. Regretting it now, aren't you? Guain's eyes flew wide open, bloodshot and frenzied. I get it now. You've been reborn too. No wonder everything is different from our past life. I gave a mocking laugh. Congratulations, you got it right. That's why I came to thank you specifically. Without you, it would have taken me a lot more effort to deal with them. Hearing this, Guain trembled with rage. You bitch, you absolute bitch. All of this was supposed to be mine, every last bit of it. You stole everything from me. A wicked person like you is going straight to hell. I won't rest, even in death. I leaned down and gripped her chin, with a cold smirk. I said, Guain, have you forgotten? I clawed my way out of hell, the very hell you cast me into, and get this straight, I never stole a thing from you. It was all mine to begin with. For the rest of your life, I'll make you understand what it means to be trapped between life and death. The white gauze wrapped around her head was instantly soaked with blood. At this moment, she finally understood true fear. She struggled frantically to break free from my grasp, but it was too late. She would spend this lifetime atoning for the sins of her past life. 16. Mom couldn't bear the feeling of being cast from heaven into hell in an instant. She lost everything, her father, the company, and her health. She fainted several times along the way. In the end, she finally accepted the truth and asked me to send her abroad for treatment. I warned her that the risks were significant and it wasn't necessary, but she insisted on the surgery and ended up dying on the operating table. As for Guain and my brother, they were sent to the nursing home under my name. I put the two of them in the same hospital room, my brother, completely dumbfounded, and Guain, absolutely furious. Every day was a real circus. Guain blamed my brother for the whole mess, subjecting him to all kinds of humiliation. The foolish brother didn't care at all. His mind was completely occupied with thoughts of the rest of his life. Even with excrement and urine all over Guain, he showed no disgust, focusing only on holding her down, due to prolonged malnutrition and the squalid, filthy environment. Guain's paralyzed body began to fester with maggots and rot. One day, 6 months later, I received news of their deaths. There wasn't a single part of Guain's body that was intact. She was covered in festering sores and was no longer recognizable as human. As for my brother, he died in excruciating agony from a lung infection. Their condition was more horrifying than the scariest ghost story ever shown on TV. Serves them right. 17. As soon as I left the sanatorium, I gave Shanibai a call. He replied indifferently, dead is dead. As long as your hands are clean, that's all that matters. I let out a soft chuckle and raised my pale hand, which gleamed brilliantly in the sunlight. Exactly, spotlessly clean. I merely went with the flow. It was their own infighting, a classic case of a dog-eat-dog world. I just landed you a $4 billion contract. Is it too much to ask for a home-cooked meal in return? His voice was the same as always, dripping with affection and lazy charm. I licked my lips and adjusted my tube top and miniskirt in the rearview mirror, a smile full of charm and allure. Excellent. Story 2. In my past life, I rescued the fallen phoenix god. To repay my kindness, he granted me the position of concubine. Year later, I bore his divine heir and was elevated to principal wife, while my younger sister became the white tiger demon's concubine. She whispered to me that the white tiger was impotent and ill-tempered. I saved her from the tiger's den, yet she sought to replace me. She laced my tea with deadly poison. When I came to, she'd already rescued the Phoenix Lord. Little did she know, this so-called debt of gratitude was nothing but an elaborate scheme. The Phoenix Lord's temple housed 100 concubines who had once aided him. For the Phoenix kin, childbirth meant enduring searing flames, a trial where few survived. Who'd willingly die or bear his children without being manipulated. The ferocious white tiger is actually an innocent little kitten. As everyone knows, foxes excel in the art of seduction. Few remember that nine-tailed foxes were once symbols of divine blessings. The nine-tailed fox clan once possessed ancient demon-banishing arts, but the clan elders grew corrupt, only knowing to offer their women in marriage to curry favor with powerful families. Few were willing to endure the rigorous study of these mystic arts. I'm the last nine-tailed white fox in our clan who still masters the complete arcane arts, yet still couldn't escape the fate of political marriage. This time, my sister and I are heading to the stronghold of the mightiest demon in these lands, the White Tiger. If we can win his favor, our clan will never fear the demon wolf tribe's raids again. The airship to White Tiger Mountain is ready, but my sister is nowhere to be seen. Someone in the crowd whispered, I saw her heading to the back hills yesterday afternoon. No idea what she was doing there, and she still hasn't returned. Could something have happened? I remember in our past life, my sister was too proud of her beauty and noble birthright to ever venture into dangerous places like the back hills. On the day of the selection, she woke at dawn to adorn herself with extraordinary splendor. She even vowed to become the White Tiger's rightful wife. She's still not here. Could she have been reborn too? As I pondered how to deal with my sister's potential rebirth, a phoenix's cry echoed through the sky, greeted by a chorus of birds. Dozens of celestial maidens in crimson robes could faintly be seen amidst the clouds. Recalling my past life experiences, everything suddenly became clear to me. My younger sister truly reincarnated and even saved the Phoenix deity. Chapter 022. Just like in my past life, I feared my aunt would be mistreated after my departure, so I ventured to the cliff behind the mountain to gather more medicinal herbs for her future needs. Little did I know, I'd encounter a wounded phoenix with broken wings by the riverbank. Injured by the demon lord. Witnessing his overwhelming divine power, I was compelled to cultivate together with him, hoping to grow stronger so I could protect my aunt in the future. To my surprise, he absorbed my spiritual energy to regain consciousness, then proclaimed me his savior. He plucked a phoenix feather as a token for me, then summoned temple stewards to prepare the concubine inauguration ceremony. The next day, he intercepted the airship bound for White Tiger Mountain and proclaimed me as his concubine. No fox maiden had ever married a divine lord before, let alone a bastard child born to a concubine like me. Becoming some powerful demon's mistress would have been a blessing in itself. Now that I was to be the divine lord's consort, the elders could barely contain their joy. They'd have delivered me straight to his bedchamber that very instant. Yet behind the Phoenix clan's radiant glory lies a well-kept secret. Every Phoenix child must be born through baptism by fire. The mother must endure sacred flames' torment during childbirth. Only 1 in 100 mothers survives the ordeal, hence the Phoenix clan has few descendants. This explains why the Phoenix Lord's primary consort remained childless all these years. Not incapable, but unwilling. After all, as a divine serpent goddess, the primary consort needn't endure such hardship. For a lowly fox spirit like me to bear a phoenix was a divine blessing. After successfully delivering the phoenix, the Divine Lord elevated me to equal consort status, granting me the privileges of a principal wife. The Tingsha goddess raised no objection. After all, who would compete with a mere breeding vessel for favor? Now this blessing has been stolen by my younger sister. I'm absolutely overjoyed. The phoenix-drawn chariot descended from the sky, surrounded by dozens of feathered fairies escorting my sister and the Phoenix Lord. All the fox elders knelt in reverence before the assembled crowd. Phoenix Lord Zeke kissed my sister's forehead. Pearl truly has a heart as pure as the moon, such a kind soul to risk her life for me. From this day forth, you shall be my royal consort. I knelt humbly among the crowd with bowed head, sensing my sister's gaze lingering upon me. As I slightly raised my head, our eyes met, her triumphant expression meeting mine. I lowered my head even deeper in apparent reverence, though the corners of my lips curled ever so slightly. Finally got rid of that blessing. Chapter 3033. The Phoenix deity's concubine ceremony far outweighs the White Tiger demon's bride selection in importance. After deliberation, the clan elders decided to keep our ship of fox maidens to prepare for Pearl's imperial concubine coronation ceremony, but then my sister suddenly pointed at me, her eyes brimming with provocation. Moon cannot stay. Her name clashes with mine. It's inauspicious. Better gift her to the white tiger at once. How ironic. I was her benefactor in our past life. Yet she loathes me to the core, terrified I might steal her position as secondary consort. The clan chief nodded obsequiously. Get out of here already. Must you stay and make a nuisance of yourself? I was dragged onto the airship by the entourage. Passing by my younger sister, she suddenly snapped. Who allowed her to wear red? This is my wedding celebration. Her wearing red offends my sight. A mob rushed to strip off my crimson outer robe, leaving my hair bun askew. Never have I suffered such humiliation. Yet my sister burst into laughter seeing me in such disarray. She looked down at me, kneeling on the ground. Dear sister, the white tiger is but a crude beast unworthy of fine grain, dressed in undergarments for the selection. You might just suit his vulgar taste and become his concubine. Playing dumb, I replied. Then I thank you, little sister. May you soon bear the phoenix god's offspring. May you soon experience the agony of being burned alive that I endured in my past life. The Phoenix Lord overheard my conversation with my younger sister. He approached and studied me like some curious trinket. How amusing. A bastard elder sister and legitimate younger sister, both named Pearl, Moon, and equally beautiful. My sister clenched her fists at the Phoenix Lord's words, her brow furrowing as shadows darkened her eyes. Her voice came out sickly sweet. True, but what a pity elder sister was born with that unlucky white hair. Albinism might be hereditary, you know. She's spouting nonsense. Ancient texts say, the graceful white fox with 9 luxuriant tails brings prosperity to the household when taken as bride. Those who obtain a 9-tailed white fox shall have flourishing descendants. I'm clearly an auspicious sign. In fact, it was only after my birth that my mother's circumstances improved. That's how I got the name Moon, meaning the celestial body surrounded by stars. When my sister was born, the first wife spitefully named her Pearl to provoke us, signifying she was the treasured moon in our father's heart, a worldly gem. I wore only undergarments, my figure clearly outlined. The Phoenix Lord's gaze lingered on my full curves, his throat bobbing as he murmured, what a waste. Waste of what? That this pretty face and fertile body can't bear your children. The Phoenix bloodline struggles with fertility. Besides the principal wife of equal status, they keep hundreds of concubines. Any concubine who births a Phoenix heir gets promoted to principal wife. This damsel saving the hero charade was also orchestrated by the Phoenix god. Only after becoming his principal consort did I learn he descends every 5 years to deceive naive maidens, making these deceived women willingly bear his children. After all, only 1 in 100 potential mothers can survive the divine flame trials. He could only gamble for a chance with sheer numbers. That lecherous look he just gave me, was he trying to find an excuse to claim me? I should thank my dear sister for taking the bullet for me. I turned away, refusing to look at that disgusting couple boarding the airship, heading to White Tiger Mountain stronghold. Gazing upon this vast, unbound wilderness, my future path shines bright before me. Now freed from motherhood's bonds, armed with exorcism arts, can't I fight for a better future for myself and my aunt? As for that legendary brute Baihu, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Frankly, it'd be better if he doesn't get selected. Chapter 4:04:4. The airship descended, revealing hordes of beast women gathered outside the stronghold. Countless beauties from rabbit, snake, leopard, avian, and aquatic tribes queued up for the selection. They watched as I disembarked alone in my undergarments. The women pointed and whispered, those fox tribe folk truly have no shame. Sister, it's not even dark yet. Why are you undressing? If I went out like that, I'd die of shame on the spot. Ignoring their jeers, I quietly retreated to the farthest corner. I carefully sifted through memories of my past life. All we know is that the White Tiger Demon Lord came here a century ago to claim this mountain as his domain. At first, everyone thought he was just some minor player, yet he proceeded to subdue formidable beasts like the Shadow Wolf, Hydra, and Black Bear Spirit one after another. There are even rumors that his combat prowess surpasses that of celestial deities from the upper realms, hence all neighboring factions sought to recruit him. But this white tiger appears disinterested in carnal pleasures, never taking wives or concubines. It wasn't Until last year that they began widely announcing their intention to select a bride through a Mortal World talent show. His temper seems rather foul too. My sister from a past life once said he's prone to violent outbursts and losing control. With his impossibly finicky personality, wave after wave of women attended the selection, yet none ever met his standards. Lost in thought, I suddenly saw a Serpent Clan maiden come running out of the house in tears. How utterly humiliating. Wah, the other two snake women embraced the sobbing girl, comforting her while carefully inquiring what exactly had happened inside. Through her tears, she whimpered, "The moment I entered, he took one look at me and yelled, 'Get out, I don't like hairless creatures.'" Hearing her words, the hairless beast women waiting outside, snake folk, mare folk and others, all visibly paled. The koi fish woman gathered her sisters. "Let's go, girls, that white tiger might be powerful, but he's got no respect for women. Why should we line up to be insulted?" With someone taking the lead, over half the crowd dispersed instantly, leaving only scattered rabbit, bear, and leopard women. But the situation wasn't much better. Women kept emerging in tears. "How dare he say I stink, that my scent was wrong. He called me dark-skinned and said he prefers fair ones. He said my tail was stubby." Sobs, listening to the women's weeping. I glanced down at my plain undergarments and broke into a cold sweat. I dreaded to think what humiliating remarks my appearance might invite, but then it occurred to me, the worst that could happen was going home empty-handed and enduring my sister's mockery again. Hardly a devastating loss, who knows, this misfortune might prove a blessing. I could avoid marriage and childbirth altogether, devoting my life to protecting my mother instead. With this realization, the weight lifted from my shoulders, and I set forth unburdened. Chapter 5:055. Upon entering the chamber, a chaise lounge stood at the center with a man reclining upon it, receiving a head massage, though the drapes hung before the lounge obscured clear view of his features. "Is this the last one for today, my lord?" "This is the last one, a nine-tailed fox maiden." "Oh, a nine-tailed fox." With that, he rose and drew back the curtain to approach me. "Do all fox maidens dress like this? That underrobe choice, splendid. You've successfully caught my attention." He squinted at me. "A nine-tailed fox. That scent seems familiar." "Familiar scent. Does he enjoy sniffing foxes?" "What's your name?" "Moon." "Moon, so familiar." I let out an awkward chuckle. "Common name, I guess. Now say, mommy for me." "What?" I looked up at him, his handsome features scrunched up. "Just say it already, Mom." "Mommy, babies are meant to be kissed." "Say it already, babies are meant to be kissed." I struggled to speak, wondering inwardly, do all impotent males resort to such perversions? His eyes narrowed in pleasure. "Yes, that's the right flavor. You're the one. From now on, you'll sleep beside me." A sinking feeling hit me, but I could only nod in resigned acceptance. Just as my sister warned, this white tiger has no manners. He actually chose me. No wedding ceremony, not even a proper title, and now he expects me to sleep with him, sitting on the bed. I stared at this towering man with growing trepidation, yet he suddenly nuzzled his head against my chest, tiger ears popping out. "Quick, pet me." I obediently stroked his furry head, stroke after stroke, until he fell asleep in my arms, even letting out contented little purrs. My anxious heart finally settled. Turns out he's truly impotent. What a relief. From then on, though nominally his white tiger wife, I essentially became his human cat scratcher. Life became manageable until one night, he transformed into his true form, a white tiger, and pinned me down. His amber eyes turned blood red, his entire demeanor becoming terrifying. His tiger claws lunged at me, shredding my clothes. I sensed a demonic aura and tried to channel my spiritual energy for closer inspection. When my spiritual vision activated, the sight before me made my blood run cold. The white tiger was shrouded in thick demonic energy, the black miasma congealing into a gelatinous substance that encased its body completely. If we don't purge this corruption soon, he'll lose all consciousness and become nothing but a mindless killing machine. The first to suffer will be every beast within a 100-mile radius. His notorious temper was likely caused by the demonic energy corrupting him. Thankfully, I'd been diligently practicing arcane arts since my rebirth without slacking. As I recited the incantation, spiritual energy surged through me, that familiar sensation returning. Spiritual power crept like vines across my palm, stealing myself. I reached toward his tiger paw as white chi intertwined with the black miasma. The dark demonic energy seemed to recoil from the pure white spiritual aura, continuously retreating and dissipating. He transformed back into human form, and through my efforts, the demonic corruption had receded from half his arm, restoring his jade-like skin. The white tiger, nicknamed Tyrant, narrowed his eyes contentedly, then impatiently pulled my hand toward his head when I paused my movements, standing at 188 centimeters in human form while I'm only 162 centimeters. The momentum of his pull pressed me flush against his broad chest. Having never been intimate with any man except Phoenix, I flushed crimson with embarrassment, avoiding his gaze as I teetered on tiptoe to shift away. Oblivious to my discomfort, he tightened his grip on my hand, forcing me to stroke his head until red marks bloomed on my pale wrist. Whether from the relief of dissipating demonic energy or pure contentment, he suddenly shifted into his white tiger form. My fingers sank into thick fur, and I couldn't resist extra strokes, earning a rumbling purr and a lazy tail flick. The once terrifying tiger tyrant didn't seem so fearsome anymore. Alas, my spiritual energy was limited. After dispelling some of the demonic aura, I felt my power waning, and the white tiger before me blurred into double vision. In my dazed state, I only remember floating among clouds, fluffy, warm cotton-like clouds, drifting endlessly through the sky until I finally awoke, unaware of how much time had passed. When I opened my eyes, I saw a maidservant excitedly calling out to someone outside the room, "Divine Lord, Divine Lord. The White Fox Maiden has awakened, Divine Lord." Wasn't I at the White Tiger Mountain stronghold, lying on the bed? I carefully surveyed my surroundings and realized the layout resembled the Phoenix Temple from my past life, only more magnificent and refined. Upon hearing of my awakening, a dense crowd came pouring in from outside. "Congratulations, White Tiger Divine Lord. The White Fox Maiden has awakened, Lord White Tiger." Could he truly be the legendary divine beast Baihu, an existence more revered than the phoenix itself? But why would the white tiger deign to dwell in this mortal stronghold? Chapter 6:066. You're awake. Before me stood a man of peerless beauty, sharp sword-like brows beneath starry eyes, a straight-nose bridge, lips red as roses and teeth white as pearls, clad in white armor like a general. It was the white tiger Kairos. Where am I? The white tiger sanctuary. I am Kairos, the white tiger deity. You exorcised demons for me until your spiritual energy was depleted. The celestial sanctuary's aura is potent. I brought you here to recover, but once you're healed, could you? He stammered, "If you can cure me completely, I shall grant you the position of my principal consort. I wronged you by not holding our wedding ceremony in the mortal realm. Perhaps I should." Why do men these days think marrying someone is a way to repay kindness? As if being someone's wife is some great privilege. After the suffering in my past life, I've no intention of casually marrying and bearing children again. What's the difference between the white tiger deity and the phoenix deity? Men are equally worthless across all realms. I quickly interjected, "No need. After healing you, I'll return to the Fox clan. All I ask is your promise that when I come seeking your aid in the future, you'll honor my request." When I declined his proposal to become his principal consort, his face flushed and tiger ears popped up. "Fine, be that way. I wasn't planning to marry anyway. Forget one wish. I grant you 3. Come to me whenever you need them fulfilled." His ears instantly flattened back as he glanced at me awkwardly. "You should rest now. I've got matters to attend to." Turns out the white tiger deity isn't as awful as my sister made him out to be. He's actually kind of adorably clueless. Maybe slightly better than the phoenix, who knew he'd barge into my chamber at night trying to share my bed. I gave him a firm rejection. "Didn't you promise to let me return to the Fox clan? Why are you trying to sleep with me now? We're in the celestial realm. If you sleep with me today, by tomorrow the entire upper world will know I've been with the white tiger deity. How could I ever return to the mortal realm? Who'd dare take me in? And what of your fearsome reputation? Slept before marriage isn't exactly a glorious title." He shot me a wounded look before storming off in a huff. After recuperating at the temple, I grew restless and invited a young palace maid to stroll through the celestial gardens. There we unexpectedly encountered my sister Pearl surrounded by attendants, adorned with jeweled hairpins and flowing silken robes that gave her the air of a celestial consort. While I wore only plain garments with a simple silver hairpin, her expression darkened instantly at the sight of me. bristling like a cat whose treasure I'd stolen. How dare you set foot in the celestial realm, you're Zeke's kept woman, shameless harlot. She lunged at me, but my handmaiden threw herself between us, outnumbered. We were quickly overwhelmed. When she drew a golden hairpin to stab me, I clutched my maiden screamed Kairos' name, her arm froze mid-strike. Kairos, the white tiger deity's sacred name, you've seduced the divine white tiger. No, impossible. The white tiger deity has been in seclusion for a century and only returned days ago. How could a bastard like you possibly be connected to Lord Kairos? Clutching the golden hairpin, she glared at me with venom, just like your mother, the most cunning vixen of them all. She stole my father, and now you dare try to take my husband. Today, I'll carve that pretty face of yours to ribbons. Stop this madness. Kairos stepped in front of me, knocking the golden hairpin aside, his face dark as storm clouds. Who dares harm what's mine? Chapter 7:077. The younger sister gave Kairos a once-over and sneered. Nowadays even the lowest riffraff can waltz into the celestial realm. A mere tiger spirit like you should stay in your mountain lair. Trespassing here is punishable by death. I'll summon Zeke to arrest you immediately, Phoenix. Lord Zeke arrived with a thunderous expression after receiving the summons, but the moment he laid eyes on Kairos, his demeanor flipped like a Sichuan opera mask. Bowing deeply, he pleaded, "Forgive this insolence, elder. This is Pearl, my newly-wedded concubine. She failed to recognize your eminence. I shall discipline her properly." The younger sister looked incredulous. "He's just a lowly tiger spirit from the mortal realm. You foolish woman can't recognize true divinity. This is the white tiger deity from the celestial realm." Kairos raised a disdainful eyebrow. "Who gave you permission to call yourself Pearl? With that attitude, you'll be called Xiao Xiao from now on." The younger sister protested. "How dare you think you can rename me on a whim?" Zeke shot a commanding glance at his sister Pearl, his tone dripping with authority. "Aren't you going to thank the white tiger deity for bestowing this name? On your knees. Are you waiting for our senior to condemn you?" Pearl reluctantly dropped to her knees, but Kairos shoved me forward instead, apologized to her. The younger sister resisted, looking desperately at Zeke for help. "Zeke, your sister now belongs to Elder White Tiger. How dare you frighten her? You should be apologizing. Why are you looking at me?" With tear-streaked cheeks, she reluctantly bowed her head in apology. Anyone watching would have thought I was the one who bullied her. I shoved the young maid forward. "Your people beat her, and you nearly stabbed her. Kowtow to her, and we'll consider this matter settled." Fury blazing in her eyes, she sprang to her feet. "A mere palace maid deserves my kneeling." My sister always plays the status card, oblivious that the Phoenix Lord sees her as nothing but a 1% broodmare. Aren't we all just lowborn in the end? Before I could speak, her beloved Zeke slapped her across the face. A sharp slap rang out, leaving both me and Kairos speechless. My sister covered her face, tears welling in her eyes as she stared at Zeke with wounded expression. "This worthless woman knows no manners. She'll face household discipline." With that, Zeke dragged my sister Pearl away. After the two walked away, the white tiger blinked its big eyes and said, "He actually hits women. What kind of man does that?" I shot a glance at Kairos, thinking to myself, "Weren't you the one who abused my sister Pearl in your past life?" Back then, she'd send me voice messages and sob her heart out in front of me multiple times. I couldn't bear seeing her get beaten, so I asked Zeke to intervene and bring her from that den of wolves to my palace. Little did I know she'd been watching me bask in glory day and night, green with envy, plotting to take my place all along. The audacity. She hooked up with Zeke while I was in confinement, then spiked my tea with poison that left me bleeding from every orifice. Now this wife-beating white tiger Kairos dares call Zeke that social climbing cockroach, unmanly, pot calling the kettle black. Much, sensing my disdain, his tail lashed anxiously. "Sure, I love brawling, but I've never laid hands on a woman. Test me with a truth spell if you don't believe me. I've got standards." "Oomph, who was it that pinned me down in the middle of the night and nearly tore my clothes off?" Seeing his adorable little tail, I decided to let it slide. The white tiger deity would never stoop to such vulgar behavior. "I believe you." Little did I know I'd be proven wrong that very night. According to the palace maid, the white tiger deity went berserk after drinking a cup of tea. He wounded the guards and fled to who knows where. Chapter 8:088. Impossible. I've spent days with white tiger deity Kairos and already purged most of the demonic energy from him. Things were supposed to keep improving. How did it suddenly spiral out of control? Having spent so much time in close proximity to Kairos, I've grown quite familiar with his scent. I followed the scent to find the white tiger deity, but instead stumbled upon a little kitten in the celestial garden. The moment it saw me, it started meowing repeatedly. I couldn't resist picking him up, and he stretched out his pink little paws to knead my chest. I studied his white fur and the tiny king character on his forehead. It reminded me of Little White, the white cat with a king mark I found at home years ago. I tentatively called out, "Little White, is that you, Little White?" He actually meowed back at me, "Mommy's good baby indeed." Moi? So it was Snowball all along. No wonder I couldn't find him after scouring the entire back mountain when he went missing. So this is the divine beast belonging to the celestial lord. I carried Little by everywhere searching for the white tiger, even visiting his stronghold in the mortal realm, but couldn't find him. With no other choice, I headed home and fell into a deep sleep holding Little by. In my drowsy state, I felt a fuzzy little head nuzzling against my chest. When I woke the next morning, I found myself embracing a boy with tiger ears. Upon closer inspection, it was Kairos. Littleby had vanished. My heart skipped a beat as realization dawned. Could Littleby actually be the white tiger deity? A cold sweat broke down my back after finding Xiao Bai in the nether. I used to cradle him day and night, cooing, "Whose little baby is this?" "Why, it's Moon's precious baby. Such a squishy little bun deserves to be smothered with mommy's kisses." The memory of that selection day resurfaced. Was he actually choosing a bride to find me? I quickly nipped that arrogant thought in the bud before it could turn into wishful thinking. I nudged Kairos, but he refused to get up, clinging to me. "You're my cure." What kind of cringy pickup line is that? "You'll sleep with me every night from now on. Name your terms." "I don't sell my body." He suddenly transformed back into Xiao Bai's kitten form, kneading and purring at me. "After sleeping with you last night, the demonic energy in me vanished. I've had this headache for centuries. Have some mercy on me." Men's words are as deceitful as ghosts. When I activated my spirit vision to check, I saw only a wisp of demonic energy clinging to him, like a sheer black veil wrapped around his body. Who could resist a teary-eyed kitty's plea? I reluctantly nodded. His tail wagged joyfully as he pounced on me, licking my cheeks. Maybe sleeping with a purring ball of fur isn't so bad after all. Chapter 099. Ever since Kairos discovered that sleeping with me could dispel demonic energy and cure his headaches, he's been clinging to me every day. He'd present me with all sorts of delicious treats and fun things like offering treasures. That night, there was just a single pillow separating us. "Just so we're clear, I'm saving you here, so don't get any ideas." His tiger ears twitched slightly, the tips tinged pink. Watching those fluffy ears sway near my face, I couldn't resist giving one a playful pinch. Realizing what I'd done, I guiltily jerked my hand back. Kairos blinked his big eyes expectantly. "Why'd you stop? It seems more effective when you give me a little squeeze." I pretended to be unmoved, though I was practically itching to pet him. He transformed back into a cat, tilting his head just over the pillow to invite ear scratches. What could I do with this cunning little furball? Of course I had to pet him. The next morning, Kairos' body crossed the midline and pinned me down. I shoved him away angrily. "You're crushing me." A faint noise came from outside the door. From then on, the temple maidens treated me with unusual reverence. They must have misunderstood something. My sister came to visit me unannounced today, bringing a pile of gifts with her. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. I welcomed her in, curious to uncover her ulterior motives. Rubbing her belly with a smug look, she boasted, "Zeke dotes on me. We spend every night together. He says all those temple girls are cheap trinkets compared to me. Now that I'm with child, he's showered me with every treasure under the sun. See this basket of luminous pearls he gifted me. I use them as marbles, thinking how frugal elder sister remains with only that plain hairpin after wedding the white tiger lord. I thought to share one with you." Holding my teacup, I flashed a perfectly practiced smile. "Darling, you didn't come bearing pearls. You came serving piping hot tea, didn't you?" Her face darkened. "How sharp your tongue has grown." "I came in genuine kindness." "Really, sister? Those drab robes and that single hairpin, men do grow weary of such dullness. So you're sharing bed and board with the white tiger deity daily, yet still have no official standing. How disgraceful to be used and discarded like some plaything." Even your mother, lowly as she was, At least held concubine status, she preened, adjusting her coiffure with a handkerchief in that sickeningly innocent manner of hers. Ah, I wondered what that overpowering scent of artifice was. Turns out our distinguished guest has arrived, Kairos eyed her sister disdainfully, rolling the luminous pearl between her fingers. This is what passes for treasure. Zeke's truly scraping the bottom of the barrel. Isn't this the sort of trinket you'd toss to servants? He casually produced an even more exquisite mermaid pearl. Now this is what you call a real pearl. What's that trinket of yours? My sister's face darkened. You jest, divine lord. My Zeke treats me exceedingly well. Though of course we common folk could never compare to your exalted status. Good that you know your place. Don't bring your junk around to bother my wife again. Wife, since when did I become her wife? Since when did my sister become your consort? How come I wasn't informed? You're merely a fourth-rank divine lord's concubine. What business is it of yours? Why don't you go manage that husband of yours with his 100 concubines? I just saw him drinking by the spirit lake with some palace maid in his arms. Care to take a look? My sister's face turned beet red. Abandoning her tea, she hurried away with her maids in tow. Chapter 10. Since that day, my sister never dared to cross the threshold of the White Tiger Hall again. I was feeling rather bored when Kairos mentioned the Spirit Lake to me that day, so I took my maids to go boating on the Spirit Lake, hoping to catch some excitement along the way. Before we even reached the shore, a dark whirlwind suddenly erupted from the lake, swirling outward at terrifying speed. This black whirlwind feels strangely familiar to me. In my dazed moment, Kairos transformed into a tiger and charged toward me. He grabbed both me and the palace maid in his jaws, tossing us onto his back. 1,000 years ago, along with the other 3 divine beasts, Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise, we sealed the Demon Lord beneath Spirit Lake. For millennia, countless demonic spies have infiltrated the upper realm attempting to free him, yet none have succeeded, for reasons unknown. The seal has weakened today. Stay within the temple. Both of you. I'll gather the other divine beasts to reinforce the Demon Lord's imprisonment. Just as we reached the White Tiger Hall's entrance, we encountered a group of guards clad in multicolored armor. Lord White Tiger, disaster, our Azure Dragon sovereign has fallen to demonic madness. Lord White Tiger, calamity, our Vermilion Bird sovereign has succumbed to demonic frenzy. Lord White Tiger, catastrophe, our Black Tiger sovereign has been possessed by demonic rage. I helped the little palace maid dismount from the tiger's back, then stroked Kairos' nape. Take me to see the other 3 divine lords. The white tiger remained silent for a long moment before growling. What? Planning to sleep with all 3 of them? The nearby guards lowered their heads in embarrassment, not daring to look at either of us. What are you thinking? I have a method to exorcise their demons, but it requires your spiritual power. My cultivation isn't strong enough to activate the exorcism array. Got it. Leaving right now. We hadn't gone far when I saw the 3 divine lords, shrouded in dark energy, heading toward the Spirit Lake. Mounting my white tiger, I swiftly changed course. By then, the celestial army had completely surrounded the Spirit Lake, using formation arrays to suppress the Demon Lord. I leapt off the tiger's back and drew an exorcism array. While ineffective against the Demon Lord, it could restore corrupted spirit beasts to their senses. Taking position at the array's core, I felt the white tiger channel spiritual energy into me from behind. Countless silver vines erupted, ensnaring the 3 divine sovereigns as radiant spiritual energy clashed against dark demonic power. The light gradually gained dominance. Just a bit more and the demonic corruption would be completely purged from the sovereigns. A phoenix's cry suddenly echoed behind us, but neither the white tiger nor I paid it much mind, assuming it had come to aid in subduing the Demon Lord. To our shock, the phoenix's divine flames came rushing straight toward us. The white tiger shielded me, its back scorched by the sacred fire, yet it refused to release its grip as it continued channeling spiritual energy. Focusing all my will, I completed the final exorcism ritual, restoring the 3 divine beings to their senses. The white tiger's guardians took positions at the 4 cardinal points of the Spirit Lake's formation core, reactivating the ancient array. At this critical moment, the Phoenix deity flew into a rage. With their dwindling numbers, all 10 remaining phoenixes simultaneously attacked the 4 deities to disrupt the formation ritual. Following the phoenixes came the Avian Legion and demonic warriors. Defeated celestial soldiers retreated toward the Spirit Lake when a panicked shout rang out. The southern heavenly gate has fallen. the Phoenix clan has allied with the demonic forces to stage a rebellion. In an instant, 100-mile radius around Spirit Lake was bathed in blood. The air thick with agonized wails. Kairos commanded me, guard the four of us in meditation. Once the demon lord is subdued, his army will collapse without their dark energy sustenance. I extended 4 silver vines to shield the quartet, preventing demonic corruption from disrupting the ritual array. In the end, the demon lord was vanquished, and both the Phoenix and Dragon clans were subdued. The White Tiger, gravely wounded and drained of spiritual energy, transformed into a kitten and slept in my arms. Lord Vermilion Bird struck the Phoenix clan's leader. After all the effort I spent helping your kind ascend to the heavens, you dare collude with the demonic path. Is this how you repay me? Phoenix Lord Zeke spat blood. Ascend to the heavens, only to what? A mere 4th-rank divine title. Our proud Phoenix lineage must bow and scrape before every celestial official up here. The demons offered me a 1st-rank demon lord position. Is it wrong to seek greater heights? What's even more infuriating is that White Tiger deity Kairos repeatedly humiliated me for some lowly fox spirit, poisoning my concubine's mind until she miscarried. That child was the Phoenix clan's first heir in 5 centuries. He was the only witness to my frolic at the Spirit Lake that day. Had he not tattled, my concubine wouldn't have confronted me, we wouldn't have argued, I wouldn't have pushed her accidentally, and my child would still be alive. His eyes blazed with fury, were our positions reversed. That cur would never dare treat me thus. The Vermilion Bird clutched his chest in anguish. Blind fool that I was. Guards, execute him and bury the carcass in the frozen wastes. Hold, divine sovereign, let me deliver the execution instead. My Tingsha clan knew nothing of this treachery. I shall slay my own husband to prove our innocence. The Phoenix lunged at Tingsha with murderous intent. You venomous witch. Tingsha smiled sweetly. Dearest husband, did I ever mention how long I've endured you? The blade flashed, a phoenix head tumbled, collected by guards into an ice casket for delivery to the frozen wastes. Chapter 11. The White Tiger and I retired after fulfilling our mission. Day and night in the temple, I cared for Kairos, who had transformed into a cat, but he never regained his tiger form. The celestial realm mirrors the mortal world, complete with 4 seasons. In spring, I'd groom his fur and craft felt cat dolls from his shed hair. I carved him ice sculptures in summer, making him the happiest cat in the celestial realm. In autumn, I took him to admire falling leaves and wove him a straw wreath. Come winter, I knitted him sweaters and kept him warm in my arms under the blankets. Gradually, I forgot he was the exalted White Tiger deity, and I, just a lowly fox maiden. That day, while searching for Kairos, I stumbled upon the sacred brazier again by accident. There I saw my sister with disheveled hair. She lunged at me like a madwoman, screaming, "Where's my child? Where has my child gone? It was you who killed my child. You're just jealous. Jealous that I can bear the Divine Lord's child." The Divine Lord promised to make me his bravest concubine. Just leap into the sacred pyre, and my child shall be reborn from the ashes. You're coming with me. She dragged me toward the nearby sacred pyre, ready to jump. The little white creature in my arms let out a fierce roar as it transformed into a massive white tiger, pouncing on my sister. Undeterred, she lunged at me again, desperate to drag me into the fiery pit with her. The white tiger clamped its jaws around me just as she missed her mark, sending her tumbling into the divine flame altar. My sister's agonized screams echoed through the flames until her very soul dissipated like smoke, vanishing into nothingness, just like her shattered dreams. The white tiger Kairos gently set me down, his amber eyes glowing like winter sunlight, filling my heart with warmth. "I'm back. How have you been?" Out of habit, I reached to pat his head and pulled out a fish treat, only to freeze mid-motion. This wasn't the little white cat I could casually pet anymore. He was now a lofty divine sovereign. Like the Phoenix sovereign, he'd have a noble-born principal wife and countless concubines. "You no longer need this humble caretaker." I knelt down, paying respects to the white tiger deity. Furious, he flicked his sleeve and stormed off. I couldn't fathom his anger when I'd shown nothing but reverence. I returned to the palace and began packing my belongings for the journey home. At night, when my arms felt empty, I groped around until my fingers found that familiar furry little head. Thinking it was just a dream, I held him tight against my chest. "Snowball, it's not that mommy doesn't want you, it's just, It's just that memories of my past life make me terrified of marriage and motherhood, especially when the one I love is an aloof celestial being. The cat in my arms suddenly transformed into a tiger-eared youth, bare-skinned, his striped tail coiling around my wrist. I buried my face in the blanket, refusing to look, wondering why I was having such an erotic dream. Then I felt the tiger-eared boy tenderly licking my body with slow, deliberate strokes, like a bashful turtle retreating into its shell. I surrendered to this sensual dream, planning to slip away unnoticed afterward. After I left the Fox clan with my aunt and settled in a mountain cave outside the door, I spotted Xiao Bai again with a spray of crabapple blossoms in his mouth. "Mommy, take me in, please." Story 2. When the zombie virus broke out, I was living an idyllic life with my parents, without any worries about food or clothing. Meanwhile, through surveillance, I watched in horror as my father's stepmother and her family screamed in terror as they were preyed upon by zombies, fighting each other viciously over the last bit of food. I never imagined that I could be reborn when I died, when I realized not only was I alive again, but also back to half a month before the disaster struck. I broke down in tears. The disaster was indescribable and unexpected. Outbreak of a man-made zombie virus. Everyone was caught off guard by the sudden outbreak. Right when the zombies reached our doorstep, my father's stepmother Norma was plotting with her own children to bury my parents and me alive. I vividly remember her smug expression as she said, "Just bury them under this basement, dig the pit deep, layer it thickly with lime and pour concrete over it. Even if heaven's ruler himself came, they would simply disappear. In a few years, we'll declare them dead. And then all their property will rightfully be ours." Haha. Then, zombies shattered the glass and stormed our house, tearing everyone to pieces. After all the hatred and fear subsided, I started to calm down. Had it not been for the zombie virus, I would have made Norma's family pay 100-fold. But now, the outbreak was clearly the greater horror. My current concern was how to keep my parents and myself safe from this potentially long-lasting zombie catastrophe. Once I had everything arranged, I would have ways to look after Norma and her family. A zombie's defining traits are their lack of thought, emotion, and inability to feel pain, but they possess immense strength and an instinct to rip apart any human they see. Avoiding them is actually simple. Find a sturdy building to hide in where they can't find you. The challenge lies in ensuring the survival of my parents and me during this period of hiding. Stockpiling supplies is essential, but I have no idea how long this virus will last. How much is enough? Suddenly, I realized another problem. With a secure dwelling and enough supplies, zombies are no longer terrifying. It's other people who are. Given the sudden outbreak of the zombie virus, not everyone would be as prepared as I was, so even those accustomed to stockpiling supplies wouldn't last long in such a calamity. At that point, my well-supplied home would be like a sheep in a den of wolves. A cold sweat broke out on me instantly. I thought long and hard about where to hide, but realized that neither a mansion nor a penthouse would work. If people discovered that my house had supplies, even a castle would be breached. Should I go to the old family house in the countryside? That was even less viable. Although the old house was relatively sturdy, it was still an old building after all. It might stop mindless zombies, but not desperate, survival-driven people. What to do? I was anxiously pacing when my gaze fell on a document on the table. I paused, then rushed to grab it. My father had just signed a contract with the city to develop Everpeak Mountain in the eastern suburbs into a tourist area. Before signing the contract, I had visited the site with my father. He went to survey, I went to play. Everpeak Mountain, located on the north side of the city, was vast and beautiful, featuring cliffs and waterfalls. After wandering around, I discovered a tunnel crossing through Everpeak Mountain with a large hole leading to an outside hillside. The area wasn't large, but it was covered in beautiful wildflowers. Being bold, I passed through that large hole to a south-facing sunny hillside that spanned several acres. From there, the entire city was visible. To the west of the hillside stretched a deep forest, and to the east was a cave. The cave was large, with several sizable holes in its walls, providing ventilation and keeping it dry. What surprised me most was the entrance to the cave. Additionally, there is a crystal-clear mountain spring, cave, spring water. Forest. The cave is habitable, the spring water can meet water needs, and the forest can provide fuel for cooking and heating. With trembling hands, I opened my phone and browsed through the photos, becoming more excited with each view. Along the edge of the hillside, There's a cliff as sharp as a knife's edge, with the only entrance being a tunnel, which conveniently facilitates the transportation of supplies. On the neighboring peak, there stands a communication tower, ensuring signal unless the entire communication system collapses. Is there anywhere else in the world more suitable for hiding away from disaster? No. Having set my goal, I start to make preparations, but I only have half a month. Time is tight. I first contacted a construction crew online to see if they would take on the project of renovating Everpeak Mountain. They were skeptical, hardly believing such a good opportunity could fall into their laps. I wasn't offended. I explained that I couldn't entrust them with the entire project without knowing their capabilities first. So, they were to start with a small task to show me the quality of their work. Regardless of the outcome, they would be paid immediately. They quickly dropped their doubts and happily agreed to meet the next day at the tunnel entrance with their workers. After arranging the workers, I drove to the largest wholesale supermarket in the city, approached the manager, and handed over 2 A4 sheets densely listed with the supplies I needed. Not knowing how long the calamity might last, I disregarded expiration dates and planned for 10 years worth. Toilet paper, a major necessity. I ordered 1,000 boxes. Sanitary pads are irreplaceable. Both my mother and I can't do without them, so I ordered 800 boxes of day use, 500 of night use, and 500 pantyliners. Toothpaste, toothbrushes, body wash, shampoo, conditioner, and other essential personal care items. I ordered 300 boxes of each. I bought the most rice, calculating based on my family of 3 consuming 4 pounds of rice daily. 10 years would require about 15,000 pounds, but even with vacuum packaging, I was worried it wouldn't last 10 years, so I decided to buy 6,000 pounds of rice first, planning to purchase rice grain for the remaining amount. Dried noodles, rice noodles, fans, potato chips, beef jerky, various dried vegetables, chicken feet, duck necks. All the staple and snack foods I could think of for long-term storage. I ordered 300 boxes of each. Canned fruits and various canned meats were also added. 200 barrels of cooking oil, and 200 boxes each of oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, with 30 boxes of spices like Sichuan pepper and star anise, coffee, tea, sodas, beverages, all the drinks I could think of. The more the better. I bought 10 each of ceramic pots, frying pans, soup pots, and rice cookers, ladles, basins, bowls, chopsticks, thermoses, mosquito coils, mosquito repellent, cooling water, prickly heat powder, herbal ointment. I also haphazardly bought several large boxes of these potential necessities: needles, thread, scissors, candles. I also bought quite a few of these. I even casually picked up 5 boxes of condoms for Dad. We certainly don't need any surprises in such a situation. To ensure ease of preservation, I requested the manager to add an additional layer of vacuum packaging to all the food items, and mentioned that I would cover the extra costs. The manager was stunned at first, and while calculating the cost, he asked why I needed so much stuff. I explained that these supplies were intended for donation by our company. The manager smiled happily and said, "Many companies donate items, but it's my first time seeing a company donating things like Sichuan peppercorns and star anise." I laughed nervously, debating whether to clarify a few things, but ultimately, the thought of self-preservation prevailed. I was determined to create a perfectly safe hideaway, and I couldn't afford to reveal any details until everything was in place. After paying, I told the manager to wait for my call to deliver the goods, and then I headed to the agricultural supply store. One major headache was storing fresh vegetables, as they can't be preserved for long. Yet, a diet without vegetables isn't sustainable. However, this was no longer a concern for me. There was plenty of open land on the hillside, and since my parents grew up in the countryside, we could grow our own fresh vegetables at the agricultural supply store. I bought several packets of various vegetable seeds, along with wheat and rice seeds just to be safe. I also purchased plastic film, rope, fertilizers, pesticides, a sprayer, shovels, axes, saws, a wood chopping knife, and sickles, essentially everything needed for farming. I knew I was buying too much, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. In 15 days, money would be the least useful thing, so I didn't hold back. The agricultural supply store also arranged to deliver these items. Next, I visited a well-reviewed online construction materials company to order blast-proof doors and windows. The cave had holes in the walls that were great for ventilation, but without sealing them, the fierce winter winds would be unbearable. I planned to convert them into windows. Blast-proof windows were not only robust but also provided sound and thermal insulation. The blast-proof doors were intended to keep out wild animals, although no fierce animals had been reported. In Everpeak Mountain for many years, I'm someone who lacks a sense of security. Only sturdy blast-proof doors could give me peace of mind in the wilderness. I told the owner that I wanted double-layered blast-proof windows and the thickest blast-proof doors to be installed in Everpeak Mountain. The owner was surprised about installing doors on Everpeak Mountain. I had already prepared an excuse, telling him half-truthfully that a tourist area was being developed there, and we needed to set up an office space in advance. Given the location in the mountains, it was essential for the doors and windows to be very sturdy. The owner, aware that Everpeak Mountain was being developed into a tourist area, became very enthusiastic when he thought I was part of the tourist project team. He asked if I could get him some contracts, promising to be very grateful. I pretended to think it over, then earnestly said that thanks were not necessary. I just needed the job done well as our leaders value quality. The owner nodded repeatedly. Don't worry, you can count on us. After agreeing to meet at the tunnel entrance the next day, I noticed it was getting late and drove home. Given the magnitude of my recent actions, it was impossible for my parents not to notice. However, to avoid complications, I couldn't yet tell them the truth. I needed to come up with a plausible explanation for my behavior over the past few days. When I got home, it was already dusk. The nanny was cooking dinner while my parents chatted in the living room, bathed in the warm glow of the lights, with the television blaring songs and dances, and the aroma of food filling the air. Truly a picture of peaceful times. In my previous life, I could never have imagined that in just half a month, Norma's family would first tie up my parents and me, preparing to bury us alive, before zombies burst in and tore us into pieces. It was heartbreaking to see my parents being mauled by the zombies, trying to protect me as they pleaded over and over with the mindless, unfeeling creatures. Please, bite me, don't bite my daughter, Dad, Mom, since God has given me a second chance, this time, it is my turn to protect you. What are you spacing out for? My mom, seeing me standing still, quickly came over and touched my head. Are you feeling unwell? I hurriedly shook my head with a smile, hugged her, but couldn't help sobbing. Mom, I love you so much. Immediately sensing something was wrong, my mom pulled me aside. What's the matter? Why are you crying? I wiped my tears and lavished my parents with exaggerated praises, saying I was just overwhelmed with happiness and moved to tears. The atmosphere at home was cheerful and warm. I took the opportunity to express a desire to challenge myself by asking if I could take charge of constructing a temporary office area at a scenic spot. My father had long wanted me to gain some experience, but my laziness and my mother's reluctance to see me struggle had always prevented it. Now that I was volunteering, my dad couldn't stop smiling and nodded repeatedly. He even agreed to my condition that he would not interfere or visit the site until the temporary office area was completed. I breathed a huge sigh of relief. With this, all my upcoming actions were justified. After dinner and a shower, I sat at my desk, browsing the computer, thinking about what else I needed to buy. Suddenly, a news pop-up appeared online. A woman in a neighboring country had half her face bitten off by a man exhibiting bizarre behavior. The comments speculated wildly. She must have cheated him out of money, and he's getting revenge. Did he love her and, unable to have her, decide to destroy her? Was he high and hallucinating? Watching the video in horror, the man's twisted body lunging and biting the woman, it was just like a zombie. I suddenly realized the horde of zombies that had attacked us in my previous life didn't just appear out of nowhere. Zombies spread through biting, which means the zombies must have already been around, just not near us yet. A cold sweat broke out as I berated myself for my foolishness. A week before the zombies shredded us, Norma's family had arrived, drugging our food with sleeping pills and tying us up while we slept, forcing my father to reveal the safes combination when we awoke. Faced with his stepfamily's true colors, my dad first reacted with sorrow and anger, then tried to buy time by pretending to cooperate. During this time, our home was always locked, and Norma's family didn't step outside. Thus, the zombie outbreak must have occurred during that period. If I naively based my calculations on when I first saw the zombies, the more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. The already tight timeline had just been nearly halved, breaking out in a cold sweat due to urgency. I drove to the tunnel entrance early the next morning, where the construction team and the building materials supplier had already arrived. After exchanging brief greetings, I led them straight to the cave. The construction and materials bosses were impressed when I mentioned my plan to transform the cave into a temporary office area for the scenic area development project. They both gave me a thumbs up, commenting that it was a great idea since the cave was much sturdier than prefabricated houses. I outlined my requirements to the construction team, which were quite straightforward. Firstly, I wanted them to tidy up the holes in the cave walls to facilitate the installation of doors and windows by the material supplier. I left the specifics of the installation to them. The main goal was to ensure everything was secure. The cave was particularly large, so after estimating the space needed for storage and living areas, I instructed the construction team to brick up the deeper parts of the cave to prevent anything from coming through. We then leveled the ground with gravel and sand. Laying concrete would take too long, so we opted for red bricks instead. Next, we constructed the living area with light steel and sandwich panels, creating rooms along with a kitchen and bathroom. The project wasn't huge, but it did require time. Gritting my teeth, I gave them a 3-day deadline to finish the work. I knew that the scenic area development was a lucrative opportunity. Offering the teams a slice of the pie was enough incentive for them to perform well and ensure the project's completion. After briefing them, I rushed to the countryside, found a rice trading market, and bought 10,000 kilograms of rice, asking the seller to vacuum pack it all in 20-kilogram bags. The seller was puzzled by the unusual request for vacuum-sealed rice, but I didn't have time to explain. I paid well, trusting that he would see the profit in it. I bought everything we could possibly need: large supermarket shelves, ladders, beds, tables, chairs, cabinets, blankets, heaters, fireplaces, medicines, and more. Then I visited a store specializing in outdoor survival supplies, purchasing 2 high-powered telescopes, 10 radios, 10 boxes of batteries, solar panels, 100 solar-charged lights, crossbows, gas stoves, bottled gas, blackout curtains. Buy. What else was missing? What else? As I shopped, I contemplated, and as I thought, I shopped. I never imagined that one day I would exhaust myself to the point of collapse just from shopping. The construction and building materials teams indeed lived up to my expectations, completing the work quickly and well. When the material supplier handed me the keys to the explosion-proof door, a weight lifted off my shoulders. Next, it was time to bring in the supplies. Had someone install the solar panels first? Seeing that this was part of a scenic area project, the supplier also aimed to impress. He not only worked efficiently but also pointed out a nearby waterfall, suggesting he could install a generator powered by the waterfall, which would be sufficient for the cave's electrical needs. I was so astonished I could hardly speak. My goodness, what a talent! With water and electricity secured, my future life here was set to be incredibly comfortable. I immediately agreed and, without hesitation, bought additional lighting and appliances. Whether they would be used or not didn't matter. It was better to have them first. The electricity and shelves were installed that same day, followed by the arrival of the rice, then deliveries from the storage supermarket, and finally the furniture and books. Now that we had electricity, I purchased 5 freezers and 5 large refrigerators within the electric capacity limits and filled them with chicken, duck, fish, dumplings, tangyuan, yogurt, and vegetables. I even bought several dozen chicks. I had kidnapped a stray dog and a stray cat to bring along. After all the items were brought into the cave, there were only 2 days left until my retreat from the world. I decided it was better sooner than later, and planned to bring my parents here tomorrow. However, to my utmost surprise, this evening Norma arrived with her son Adam, daughter-in-law Myra, and grandson Adolf. In my previous life, Norma and her family had arrived 2 days later. This change made me uneasy, as the course of events was different from my last life. Did this mean other things might change as well? If possible, I hoped this change meant that the zombie virus wouldn't break out earlier than expected. Norma was actually my maternal grandmother's cousin, 3 years after my grandmother passed away. Norma's husband died, and she was persuaded by relatives to marry my grandfather, making her technically my father's aunt. but she was never kind to my father, favoring her own son with anything good. As my father grew up, she treated him like an ATM. In her eyes, all our family's money should belong to her son. My father, who cherished old ties, bore this out of a sense of familial duty to his maternal family. Although my mother was strong-willed, she loved my father deeply and would turn a blind eye as long as Norma's demands weren't too outrageous. Later, my mother revealed to me that my father refrained from confronting Norma because she resembled my biological grandmother. My poor father was merely seeking a semblance of his mother in her. However, our family's tolerance only led to Norma's increasing audacity. As soon as she arrived, before even settling in, she declared that her grandson Adolf was getting married and demanded that my father transfer our family villa to him, buy him a car worth no less than 500,000, and give him $1 million in cash. She argued confidently. After all, your money will eventually go to Adolf. He's getting married now. Isn't it only right that you give him these? My mother laughed in disbelief. Why should all our money go to him in the future? Norma cast a cold, venomous look at my mother. Because you only gave birth to a loser. My mother began, rolling up her sleeves in anger. I quickly pulled her aside and whispered, Mom, don't waste your breath on her. It's not worth it. My mother clenched her teeth. I've never seen anyone so shamelessly thick-skinned. As I looked at this family sitting in the living room, my mind raced. In my previous life, after their bizarre demands were refused by my parents, they unusually did not make a scene. We could never have anticipated that they would audaciously resort to murder, so we were unprepared and fell into their trap. This time, even though I knew of their plot, I couldn't convince my parents without evidence, and alone, I was no match for the four of them. They weren't causing a scene, and I couldn't find a reason to drive them out. With the imminent threat of a zombie outbreak, I didn't have time for a direct confrontation. I needed a cunning plan, so I signaled my mother to stay quiet and smilingly told my father, Dad, they're right, Adolf's wedding is a big event. It's only proper for us to support him. Norma's family was momentarily stunned, as I had never shown them kindness before. My parents also looked puzzled, but I subtly signaled them and then told Norma. However, transferring the house has to wait 2 days. It was initially purchased with a loan, and we need to settle that at the bank tomorrow before we can transfer ownership. As soon as Myra walked in and grabbed an apple from the table to munch on, she widened her eyes in surprise. What? There's still a mortgage on this house? Well, you know how it is with business people. They always prefer to have their money working for them. It's a waste not to take a loan from the bank, I said with a chuckle. Norma's family was somewhat skeptical, but I had already stood up. Come on, let's go out. The housekeeper took the day off, and we're out of groceries at home. Let's treat ourselves to a big meal. Before Norma could respond, Adolf jumped up excitedly. Yay, I want to eat king crab. We chose the most extravagant restaurant in town for dinner, serving them king crab and lobster as if it cost nothing, finally bringing smiles to Norma's family's faces. When they were happily enjoying their meal, I suggested they stay at a 5-star hotel nearby. I explained that their visit was unexpected and we hadn't had a chance to clean the spare rooms, so they couldn't stay at our place. Norma and her son Adam exchanged glances, clearly reluctant, but Adolf was thrilled. Yes, that hotel is super comfy. After dropping the family off at the hotel, I breathed a deep sigh of relief. Having learned from past experiences, I couldn't dare to live under the same roof with them again. It was only then that my parents had a chance to ask me, Dear, what exactly are you up to today? Looking at my parents, emotions swirling, I desperately wanted to tell them the truth, but I couldn't utter a word just yet. I took a deep breath and, with a smile, told my parents, Don't ask for now. By this time tomorrow night, I'll give you the answers. My parents looked at each other, puzzled, but in our family, we have a tradition of not meddling in each other's affairs. Even if they were confused, they chose to support me, so they nodded in agreement. Back home, after a shower, I checked my phone and saw that Adolf had posted a collage of photos on his social media, showcasing the lavish meal and the luxurious hotel. His caption read, Tired, just found a place to crash for the night. What an act! Thinking it over, I decided to add a little spice to his pleasant evening. I found a woman online who was looking to make quick money and told her I wanted to test my boyfriend's fidelity. If he took the bait, she was to pretend she was harassed and call the police. After agreeing on the price, she was quick to respond, assuring me that as long as the payment was right, she'd do whatever was needed. I sent her the hotel room number and waited for her to send a photo from the room before transferring the money. She replied with a simple, "Wait, no rush, I had all the time in the world." I leisurely made myself a cup of coffee, then knocked on my parents' door, reminding them not to answer any calls from Norma's family from now until tomorrow night. Facing my parents' puzzled looks, I just winked and playfully said, "Get ready for a show." After finishing my coffee, the woman sent me a message. Somehow, she had managed to enter Adolf's room, and it was clear he had taken the bait. I quickly transferred the money and instructed her not to go too far, just cause enough commotion to get him detained for a night or two. The young lady cheerfully agreed. When the next message came, it was an hour later. She said she had just come out of the police station, and Adolf was detained there. Just as I hoped. The reason was, she went to visit a friend and mistakenly knocked on Adolf's door due to a wrong room number, which led to Adolf attempting to harm her. Since Adolf admitted his mistake and his attitude was good, she decided not to pursue it further and let him stay detained for a few days. Well done, I smiled, put my phone on silent, and went to bed. With Adolf detained, Norma would be too busy to bother us for a few days. By the time they got Adolf out, I had already completed the last of my tasks and taken my parents to Everpeak Mountain. The reason I only wanted Adolf detained for a few days was because a zombie outbreak was imminent, and I couldn't bear to leave him at the police station. Tomorrow, I'll prepare an even bigger surprise gift for his family. Waking up the next day, my parents and I indeed found countless missed calls from Norma's family on our phones. Recalling what I said last night, my parents asked what I had done to them while eating breakfast. I couldn't help but laugh and told them just to ignore their calls for now, and I would explain everything in the evening. Then I hurried them to go to the office, so they wouldn't be delayed and trapped at home by Norma's family. After my parents left, I also headed out. First, I hired some cleaners to tidy up an unused apartment we owned in the eastern district of the city and had someone install surveillance cameras. After finishing these tasks, I called the manager of a warehouse supermarket to order some supplies to be delivered. Once everything was arranged, I took the cleaners back home to help pack up our clothes, shoes, and hats, and loaded them onto a pickup truck designated for shopping. I also packed all the jewelry, valuables, and important documents and certificates. Then, I took one last look at our warm home, locked the doors and windows, and drove towards a cave. Cleaning the house, moving stuff in, hanging curtains, making the bed. I was exhausted but also incredibly excited. By the time I finished, it was 4 in the afternoon. I checked my phone, which was filled with missed calls and furious messages from Norma's family, upset about Adolf's detention and seeking our help to rescue him. I sent a message to Adam, giving him the address and electronic lock code of the apartment in the Eastern District, telling him that my parents and I had to leave town unexpectedly and suggesting they stay there for the night. He immediately called, but I blocked him. Then I started checking the news, but all seemed calm. I was puzzled. If the face-eating incident abroad a couple of days ago was a zombie outbreak, even if it hadn't reached us yet, there should have been some local commotion. Why was there no sign of trouble? Could it be that what I thought was my previous life was just a dream? No, that's impossible. Although Norma's family came earlier than expected, their demands were exactly as I remembered, so it wasn't a dream. Norma's family really did intend to harm my parents and me for our wealth, and we indeed perished at the hands of zombies in my previous life. With this in mind, I didn't delay any further and drove straight to my parents' company. But unexpectedly, just as I arrived and was getting settled, Norma burst in with Adam and Myra, lunging at us and shouting, "Heartless beasts! You ignore all our calls while Adolf suffers, and here you are hiding like cowards." Then she sat down on the floor, slapped her thighs, and wailed, "Black-hearted monsters, from the time you were little, raising you was no easy task, and now that you've made some money, you just turn your back on us." The employees all looked over as my dad's face turned an iron shade of blue, and my mom, infuriated, repeatedly called for security. Norma would come and make a scene every now and then. The security guards, recognizing her as my dad's stepmother, didn't dare to forcibly remove her. A glint of triumph flashed in Norma's eyes as she pointed at my dad and cursed, "You heartless man, if you don't get Adolf out today, I won't let this go." Amidst the chaos, my parents finally figured out that Adolf had been detained, which only made my dad's expression uglier. coming from a military background. How could he stand such a disgrace? I stood by, watching the drama unfold. While scrolling through my phone when suddenly a news alert popped up, biting incident reported in nearby city. I was shocked. The photo in the news clearly showed zombies, and this city was right next to ours. Zombies next door meant they could very likely be here too. Thinking about the rampant spread of zombies sent chills down my spine. I knew I had to get my parents out immediately, but the more urgent I felt, the harder it was to leave. Norma was throwing a tantrum, Myra was sobbing loudly, and eyeing my dad's office, and Adam, with a grim expression, was blocking the door. In a moment of desperation, I quickly signaled to my dad's secretary with my eyes and sent a message on my phone. The secretary nodded in understanding and left. Minutes later, I called the secretary on speakerphone and asked, "Is this the police station in the south of the city?" With an authoritative tone, the secretary responded, "Yes. Where are you?" I mentioned Adolf and my dad's names and made a show of pleading for leniency. The secretary, being clever, allowed us to come and pick him up the next morning. After a few exchanges, had known that Adolf was only detained for 24 hours. After I hung up, Norma's family stopped crying and stared at me expectantly. I coldly said, "You heard that, we can pick him up tomorrow, now leave." But Norma's family refused to leave. "Why should we go live in the Eastern District housing? The villa belongs to Adolf, we want to stay there." They're endless. Bickering started to infuriate me. I pointed at them and snapped, "Are you leaving or not? Keep it up, and I'll have the station hold him longer." "You believe that?" Myra was still fussing, but Norma stood up, pulled her aside, and gave her a look. After casting a fierce glance at me, the three of them finally left. I breathed a sigh of relief, grabbed my parents, and said, "Let's go, we need to hurry, or it'll be too late." My parents, looking bewildered but seeing my near tears, hurried along with me. We ran downstairs, got into the car, and I floored the accelerator towards the cave. In the rearview mirror, my parents exchanged worried glances, but I couldn't afford to explain everything to them, not until we reached the shelter. Finally, the car stopped, and I jumped out to open the gate of the tunnel. Yes, for safety. I even installed a door at this entrance. My parents were stunned. "What is all this?" Without a word, I drove the car inside, got out, locked the tunnel gate, then went back, opened the cave door, turned on the light, and ushered my parents in. By this point, my heart finally settled. Inside the cave, a temporary living area constructed from prefabricated rooms included bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a large hall with soft lighting. At its center stood a dining table with 4 chairs and a large refrigerator. To the south, there were dark curtains covering the entire wall, followed by bookshelves, a sofa, a coffee table, and a fireplace. I turned on the nightlight, switched off the main lights, and drew the curtains open to reveal explosion-proof windows that overlooked a vast expanse of city lights below. While I sat on the sofa, "Is this the temporary office space you've set up?" I remained silent, leading them next into the storage area. My parents were astounded by the fully stocked supplies, their eyes nearly popping out. Taking a deep breath, I solemnly said, "Mom and Dad, from now on, we can only stay here. Moreover, I don't know how long this will last. It could be days, years, or even a lifetime." What? Tears streamed down my face as I recounted the events of my previous life, the cruelty of Norma's family, the madness of the zombies, my rebirth. While speaking, I showed them the news about the zombies appearing in the neighboring city. Seeing the shock on their faces, I pleaded through tears, "I know this is hard to believe, but I beg you, whether you believe it or not, to stay here for now. Let's give it a week, no, just a week, if there's no zombie outbreak. By then, it won't be too late to leave, and we can still sell these supplies." My parents looked worriedly at me, clearly thinking I had lost my mind. I resolved in my heart that no matter whether they believed me or not, I would not let them leave. "All right, we'll stay here for a week," Dad finally spoke. "But, if nothing happens after a week, you need to obey and go to the hospital with us." "Okay." They clearly didn't believe me. I nodded emphatically, but their attitudes changed after I showed them the surveillance footage from the Eastern District. In the footage, Norma and her husband Adam had moved in and were now cursing us from their sofa. "Mom, why did you stop me just now?" Myra complained to Norma. "That little bitch wouldn't let us stay in the villa. She must be up to no good." Norma's face twisted with malice. Don't worry, we'll get Adolf out first. The temple can't run away from the monk. We're here to stay this time. Myra cursed bitterly. I don't know where that woman came from, seducing our Adolf. What women can't Adolf find that he would fancy her? Enough, both of you. Adam finally spoke. He'll be out tomorrow morning. As for the big boss, he doesn't know how to appreciate what he's got. I think we need to take action. He looked at Norma. Mom, I'll follow your lead. Once Adolf is back, we'll drug them directly. If they refuse to pay, we beat them until they do. It's too much trouble. Norma concluded decisively. After drugging them, tie them up. Kill them outright, regardless of whether they obey or not. Once they're dead, the villa, the car, and the money will all belong to our Adolf. My parents overheard Norma's family's conversation clearly, and my mother trembled with anger while my father turned pale and remained speechless. I felt deeply sorry for my father. He was just a child who lost his mother at a young age and mistakenly transferred his longing for his mother to his aunt. What fault did he have? Following Norma's family's conversation and the news about the zombies, my parents finally began to take my words seriously. My father took out his phone and started making calls. He instructed the finance department to work overtime to pay all employees an additional 2 months' salary, gave all employees a 10-day holiday, and demanded that they immediately start their journey back to their parents, or face dismissal. He contacted the storage supermarkets, throwing out addresses one by one, for the delivery of supplies. I checked the addresses. They were all people who had helped our family over the years. He contacted a construction material company to install explosion-proof doors and windows at those addresses overnight. I was dozing off on the sofa, phone calls still ongoing. The disaster came faster than I expected, erupting the next evening, right during the peak of rush hour, nearby on the overpass. There suddenly erupted harrowing screams and cries. My parents and I ran out to see that the bridge was jammed with cars. People were fleeing in disarray, and some even jumped from the overpass. I quickly grabbed a telescope, and through the high-powered lens, I could clearly see people being chased and bitten by numerous blood-covered, twisted figures. Those who were bitten soon stood up and joined the attacking group. So many zombies. The fear and horror from a past life surged back, causing my legs to give way, and I collapsed to the ground. My parents took the telescope and watched silently, their expressions filled with terror. When my mother set down the telescope, her face was covered in tears. I got up and helped my mother into the cave, as she trembled and repeatedly murmured, "It's too horrific, too tragic." My father comforted her, then said, "Thank goodness for our daughter, otherwise, they would probably be on that overpass right now, to work on the Ever Peak Mountain project." My parents had been frequently visiting this area recently. My mother began to cry profusely, and amidst her tears, she expressed her worry. "Can they really not find us here?" My father silently took out a remote control and pressed it without hesitation. Suddenly, several explosions sounded in the distance, shaking the entire cave. Startled, I jumped up. An explosion. My father put down the remote. I contacted a friend on the black market who came over last night to help install explosives in this tunnel. I gaped, then after a moment, gave a thumbs up. "Dad, you're formidable." Since the construction of the overpass, this tunnel had been seldom used. Still not reassured, I had added explosion-proof doors at the entrance, but I never expected my father would go to the extreme of collapsing the tunnel. In chaotic times, the human heart is the most terrifying. My dad patted my head. "You've moved so much material here these past few days. Those people aren't fools. What you can think of, they can too." I hugged my father, having to admit that experience does count. I didn't ask how we would get out in the future. Staying alive safely was more important than anything else. Night quickly fell. Outside, there were heart-wrenching cries and sharp alarm sounds everywhere. Police cars, ambulances, fire trucks. Even without a telescope, one could see the masses fleeing on the nearby streets. My phone was exploding with messages. Images of bloodshed and pleas for help are everywhere. The authorities have issued an announcement urging citizens still outside to quickly find shelter and those at home to close their doors and windows and stay inside. My mother sat on the sofa, staring through the window at the tragic scene outside, unable to stop her tears. I asked my father to stay with her while I went to cook for dinner. I made pan-fried steak, cooked some pasta, and prepared oxtail soup. My mother had no appetite and only ate a little pasta and drank a few sips of the soup. The rest was finished off by my father and me. After dinner, I brewed a pot of tea, poured a cup for each of my parents, and then sat down to check my phone. Every group chat was exploding with messages about zombies. Only then did I realize that it wasn't just our city experiencing a zombie outbreak but the whole country. Even globally, the outbreak was sudden and completely unexpected, not the slow spread I had imagined. My father took a sip of tea and told me he hadn't slept all night. He had not only bought supplies and fortified the doors and windows for people close to us but also warned a few friends in the city government, telling them to ensure that electricity and communications were maintained no matter what, predicting possible turmoil soon. I gave my dad a thumbs up again. He had served in the military for over a decade, and his sense of duty was ingrained in his very being. He would never stand by if he knew there was danger. Over the past few days, I had also constantly urged my friends and classmates to stock up on supplies. Even though many didn't take it seriously, in these troubled times, one can only strive to be true to oneself. That night, we went to bed early. Before sleeping, I didn't even bother to check the surveillance to see how Norma and her family were doing. I had left them about 3 days' worth of supplies in that house. I didn't wish them well, nor would I make their end easy. The tunnel collapse meant our shelter was absolutely secure, so I slept very peacefully. When I woke up, it was already bright outside. I checked my phone and saw videos everywhere of zombies attacking people. And there were even reckless individuals live streaming. In supermarkets, people had started to loot supplies. Many in my chats were desperately tagging me. Lily, did you advise us to stock up because you knew about the zombies in advance? Woo woo, we have nothing to eat at home. We buy fresh daily and have no stock. I should have listened to Lily. We don't have much at home either. Others cursed at me. Lily, you are so shameless. If you knew about the zombies, why didn't you say anything sooner? Yeah, Lily, you are so selfish. I didn't reply and got up to wash up. I wasn't angry or guilty over their accusations and curses. I had warned them more than once. If cursing helps them survive, then let them curse. My parents were clearing the branches outside. Considering the large area and the amount of manual work required, I had already hired an excavator to turn over the soil a few days ago. The uprooted grass and branches, once dried, would make excellent firewood. Stray dogs and cats had become familiar with the place and were happily chasing butterflies, while the dozens of chicks released by my parents pecked around for insects. Seeing me get up, my dad pointed at me and comforted my mom, saying, "Our daughter has really grown up. Who would have thought that in these end times, our daughter has created such a paradise for us to escape the world. Isn't it just like heaven, down in the valley?" The heart-wrenching screams never cease, with people dying all the time, leaving everyone both confused and desperate. By contrast, this place where we have food, drink, and safety is incredibly rare. Breakfast was a simple yet hearty meal prepared by Mom: pumpkin and millet porridge, scallion pancakes, shredded pickles mixed with sesame oil, crispy, refreshing, and aromatic, accompanied by slices of salted duck eggs. After breakfast, we started tilling the ground to plant vegetables like chili peppers, greens, tomatoes, cucumbers, and beans. I bought all sorts of seeds, planting everything that was in season. Mom and Dad said that some of the faster-growing vegetables would be ready to eat in just half a month. For lunch, Mom cooked again while Dad and I scattered seeds of flowers like impatiens, tuberose, and marigolds around the outside of the cave. These plants are excellent for keeping away snakes and mosquitoes. I told Dad that I had already mixed a lot of sulfur powder into the soil inside the cave to deter snakes and bugs. Dad sighed and looked at me. "My girl, you've really thought of everything." Seeing the moisture in his eyes, I sniffled and smiled. After having a brush with death, you realize how important it is to live well and focus on what truly matters. Dad smiled and patted my head, no longer speaking. Lunch was braised chicken, stir-fried lettuce, spicy and sour shredded potatoes, and seaweed egg soup, served at an outdoor table by the spring. Dad brought out some cold cola and proposed a toast. "Here's to surviving the aftermath." Mom glanced down the mountain where people on the streets were still fleeing, visibly more zombies than last night. With heavy hearts, we raised our glasses to living well. Cheers. It wasn't until the third day of the apocalypse that I turned on the surveillance cameras of the Eastern Residential District. Adolf was sitting on the sofa, playing with his phone, yelling, "Grandma, I want some meat." Myra was furious. "What meat? Have you seen what it's like outside? Where are you going to find meat? Just go out and buy some," Adolf shouted. "It's not that scary outside, just need to be careful." Mom handed Dad a cup of tea she had brewed, shaking her head. "A rotten seed indeed, not a single good one in that family." Adam was Norma's son from a previous marriage. Dad's expression was indifferent, and he remained silent. In the video, Norma was trying to appease Adolf. Then she turned to Myra. "We don't have much food left. Maybe you could go out and buy some." Myra was shocked. "What, me go out? Mom, have you seen what it's like outside? Would I even make it back? Should I, an old woman, go instead?" Norma cursed. "You ungrateful thing, my son must have been blind to marry you." Myra burst into tears. "So many people have died outside. Many men have been bitten to death. And you want me to go? You're sending me to die. So, you want my son to go?" Norma was furious. "He's the head of this household. Are you out of your mind to suggest he should go?" The argument stopped abruptly when Adam forcefully slapped Myra. Myra sobbed quietly while Norma gloated triumphantly. "You don't have to go, but from now on, you won't get a share of the food at home." Norma was ruthless in enforcing her words. If she said Myra wouldn't eat, then Myra truly had nothing. She cooked 3 bowls of noodles, the largest portion for Adolf, a slightly smaller one for Adam, and only half a bowl for herself, leaving Myra with just some soup to sip. Indeed, this old woman showed genuine love for her son and grandson. On the 4th day of this apocalyptic scenario, tiny sprouts began appearing in the fields. The alarms from the valley below had ceased, and the streets were roamed by zombies. Occasionally, a living person rushed by like a startled bird, only to be devoured by the zombies. Abandoned vehicles littered the streets, and most of the videos online showed people desperately looting supplies. Fights broke out over a bag of rice or a bucket of water, with people not hesitating to draw knives on each other. One family, kind enough to share some food with their neighbors, was massacred by those very people, all for the sake of hoarding more provisions. With survival at stake, some turned even more brutal than the zombies. Grim and bloody news flew around, and everyone opted for self-preservation. Those who had received supplies from the old man expressed their gratitude through messages, wondering how he had known about the zombies. His employees also texted to say how grateful they were that he had sent them home, allowing them to be with their families during this critical time. The old man didn't reply to any of the messages. There was no way he could. However, he was relieved. Power and communications were still intact, probably because the city officials had taken his advice. By the 6th day of the apocalypse, Norma's food supplies had almost run out. I lounged with my legs crossed, tearing open a bag of chips, watching the disgraceful scene unfold on the surveillance monitor in Norma's house. Norma, pulling at Myra's hair, kept hitting her. "There was still a bowl of porridge last night. If it wasn't you, then who ate it?" Myra cried weakly. "It wasn't me, I swear." Adolf, lying on the couch, shouted impatiently, "Stop fighting and make some food. I'm starving." "Make food with what?" Norma collapsed on the floor, wailing and slapping her thighs before her gaze suddenly turned towards Adam. "Son, why don't you go outside and check?" Adam, sitting gloomily by the side, shuddered and waved his hands. "Mom, there are so many zombies outside. I dare not go. If we don't go out, we'll starve," Norma said frantically, spinning in anxiety. "Quick, call those bastards, tell them to send us some food. They've blocked us. I can't get through," Adolf yelled. I put down my chips and sent Adolf a message. "Need food." On the monitor, Adolf paused, then jumped up and started cursing at me. Unperturbed, I sent another message. "Seems like you're not that hungry. Never mind then. Who said we don't want it? Hurry up and send it over. Don't make me angry. I want steak, and fish too. Make it quick. When are you getting here? Where are you? Why aren't you here yet?" "Dear sister, I was wrong. I shouldn't have snapped at you. Please hurry, we're starving." But I didn't answer the phone. I didn't reply to the messages, but Adolf kept sending them, one after another. The softer his messages, the harsher they cursed me in surveillance. They even said that as soon as I walked through the door, they would tie me up to threaten my parents to secure their food supply. My parents were playing chess nearby. Dad was expressionless, and Mom had calmed down by now, occasionally leaning over to take a look and commenting, "Tsk, I bet Myra will be the first to go." I shook my head. "I think it will be Norma. Want to bet? What's the wager? Loser makes breakfast for a week." "Deal." I lost the bet. Myra was indeed the first to die, on the 10th day of the apocalypse. The water supply in the Eastern District was cut off. Without food, they could have survived on water alone for a while, but without even water, they couldn't last. Norma forced Myra to go out to find food, but Myra, who had been starving for days, had no strength left. At this point, Myra became fierce, pushing Norma hard. "You old fool, if it weren't for you bringing us to the city, we wouldn't have encountered these zombies. It's all your fault, you harm-bringer." This was probably the first time she had defied Norma. Enraged, Norma wouldn't stop arguing. Adam sat silently to the side, and Adolf, who probably had the best food supply at home, was still in good spirits, lying on the sofa scrolling through his phone, oblivious to the quarrel between his mother and grandmother. However, their quarreling attracted the zombies outside. Through the surveillance, I clearly saw zombies smashing the windows. Since it was the ground floor, security windows were installed, and the zombies couldn't break in. The people inside screamed in panic, and in the chaos, Adolf even opened the door, attempting to escape. In that instant, the zombies pounced at the door. Adolf desperately tried to hold the door against the zombies, known for their strength. In the crisis, Norma and her husband Adam also rushed to help hold the door. Just then, an unexpected scene occurred. Adolf grabbed Myra and pushed her out fiercely. As the zombies lunged at Myra, he slammed the door shut. Through the surveillance, I clearly heard Myra's screams. Adolf, back against the door, slid down to the floor, oblivious to the cries for help from his mother outside. This scene left my parents and me stunned. My mother and I originally thought Myra would die from the rivalry with Norma, but we never imagined that she would be sacrificed to the zombies by her own son, whom she had indulged for over 20 years. Beast. After a long silence, my dad slammed his fist onto the table. On the 13th day of the apocalypse, the number of zombies on the streets increased, and according to the news, the supplies in the supermarkets had been completely looted. Dad watered the vegetable patch and started cooking: stir-fried lettuce, fava bean rice with pickled vegetable ribs, steamed cured meat, steamed egg custard, and tomato and egg soup, all cooked on the clay stove he had built. I helped move the food to the outdoor table, and our family ate in silence. The food was delicious, with the freshness of the fava bean rice and the pickled vegetable ribs making one almost want to swallow one's tongue, but none of us had the appetite to eat. Below the mountain was a bloody hell, and even with tempting food, we had no mood to feast. Yet, I still feel fortunate that my parents and I don't have to confront this harsh, chaotic world. The absolute safety we have gives me a profound sense of satisfaction in this life. Through my own efforts, I have created a haven for my parents, a place where they don't have to constantly face the threat of death. When I turned on the surveillance cameras, I saw Adam and Norma carrying kitchen knives, instructing Adolf to secure the doors and windows before they left. Driven by hunger, they've been forced to risk venturing out for food over the past few days. Based on the feedback in the community group chat, these two have reshaped my understanding of the word shameless. Despite being over 60, Norma, having worked in farming for many years, is more agile than many young people. She and Adam work together seamlessly. Adam wields a kitchen knife not only to fend off zombies but also to kill other people. Under Adam's cover, Norma would break into houses. If there were people, she'd kill them and forcefully rob them. If not, even better, she would take everything she could. Surprisingly, over these last few days, they managed to gather quite a lot of food. I didn't wish them well, but their starting to kill for food was something I couldn't tolerate. I decided I had to do something. After the pair returned carrying a large bag of items, I sent a message to the community group: "Hello everyone, do you need food?" The group went quiet for a moment, then messages flooded in: Yes, do you have food? Kind soul, can I exchange a bag of rice with my car? My dad went out to look for food and hasn't come back. I fear he might be." I typed out: "I have food for you, but you must promise to share it fairly, or there won't be a next time." Everyone responded in unison: "We won't fight over it. We'll follow your arrangement. We will distribute it conscientiously. In times of great difficulty, we must unite." I told them I had supplies for everyone, but they had to do one thing for me: seal the door of my house so that those inside couldn't come out. After I shared a photo, the group was outraged. Many had witnessed Norma and Adam killing for food over the last couple of days. Several able-bodied young adults immediately grabbed weapons and tools and headed straight to my house. Norma and Adam, father and son, hearing the noise outside, thought it was others coming to rob them of food, stood behind the door with knives and sticks, barely daring to breathe. But after a series of loud noises outside, all went quiet. The community group then shared a photo. My door, which opens outwards, had been securely barricaded with iron rods and stones. I fiercely liked the post. I didn't care about others. But these three vipers, I could not let them go out to kill. I told everyone about the location of the storage in our community garage, where I had previously arranged for the supermarket to deliver water and instant noodles. Considering the potential for water and power shortages, I hadn't ordered staples like rice or flour that required processing. Instant noodles could be soaked or eaten dry, providing a basic means of survival. These supplies were all I could do for my neighbors. After arranging a refuge for myself and my family, the community group cheered, and through the garage surveillance, I saw the door quickly opened, and water and noodles distributed box by box per person. Some tried to take more, but were immediately restrained by others. Although everyone received supplies, the joy didn't last long because these provisions wouldn't sustain them for many days. I then suggested, under these circumstances, that, instead of waiting idly for government relief, everyone decided to take matters into their own hands. The younger and stronger residents began repairing the community fences and gates, and organized patrol teams to keep watch day and night. The women uprooted the ornamental plants around the community and replaced them with vegetables and grains. In the garage, a stash of various seeds for vegetables, sweet potatoes, and potatoes was hidden. There was also a small lake in the community, the water of which could be drinkable after filtration. The elderly were tasked with looking after the children. A heavy silence fell over the group, which was then broken by a voice message choked with tears. Will this situation last a long time? Exactly. Isn't anyone coming to rescue us? No one answered. Everyone knew that the zombie outbreak was global. Police sirens had long ceased outside, and no one knew whether the government or the military still existed. I sighed. We must rely on ourselves. Otherwise what? Everyone knew the answer. They asked where I was, and I told them I was in another city. They wished me to take care. My mother worriedly said that whether it was growing vegetables or potatoes, it all takes time, and they might not be able to wait that long. I shrugged. They could choose to plant those seeds or eat them. I had done my best. My father patted my head, praising me for doing well. Day 20 of the apocalypse. After a recent rain, the vegetables like bok choy and cabbage in the garden were ready to eat, and the cucumbers and beans had grown as long as chopsticks. My dad cut some branches in the woods to build trellises for the cucumbers and beans. My mother washed freshly picked mushrooms and greens by the spring, while our dog frolicked around her and the cat lazily slept on the outdoor table, belly up. If one didn't look down the mountain, it almost felt like the most beautiful time of year. I used binoculars to scan the area below for a long time. Aside from a few risking their lives to find food, only zombies roamed the streets. By the 20th day, even those who habitually stored supplies must have run out, but I still held hope because, over these days, the electricity and communications were still stable. Residents from the eastern part of the city mentioned that after the water was cut for 3 days, it came back. This indicated that the government was still functioning, still trying to stabilize the city's operations. The residents of the eastern community had also followed my advice and begun to fend for themselves. They had fortified the community walls, sealed the gates, cleared the greenery, and sowed the seeds of hope I had left them with. But still, there was no food, and cultivation couldn't meet their immediate needs. In the surveillance, Norma's family discovered they were trapped the day after the doors were sealed, causing great panic. Luckily, they had some food they had hoarded earlier and tried to eat as little as possible. However, Adolf was not content with rationing. Whenever he wasn't full, he would throw a tantrum, cursing Norma for trying to starve him. As days passed, it was clear that Norma's family was running out of food. Norma ate only once a day, Adam ate very little each meal, but Adolf still consumed a large bowl each time. Selfishly acting like a fool, he pressured Adam and Norma to find a way out to get food. craving a steak, but the doors were sealed, and the windows had burglar bars. Even using a knife, they couldn't get out. Adolf started making phone calls, pleading for help to open the door, but of course, the police were unreachable, and no one in the community could help. Watching the dwindling food supply, Adolf's gaze began to shift back and forth menacingly on Norma. Mom blurted out in worry, "Oh no, this beast is probably going to harm that old witch." True to her fears, Adolf had indeed harbored such thoughts. When Norma was about to have her only meal of the day, Adolf snatched the bowl from her hands without a moment's hesitation, pouring its contents into his own bowl while cursing. "You're practically dead already, no point wasting food on you." Norma, shocked, looked at her beloved grandson, and it took her a while to recover. "Adolf, what are you saying?" Adolf continued to eat voraciously, not looking up. "I said you're old and won't last another 2 years. I'm still young. It's better if I eat this food." Norma, torn between horror and heartbreak, trembled as she raised her hand to point at Adolf but couldn't speak a word. She turned to look at her son, Adam, who was eating his meal, pretending as if he hadn't heard a thing. Norma burst into tears, cursing as she cried, only to be brutally kicked out by Adolf, struggling to get back up for a long time, reflecting on her wickedness in her past life. This scene seemed almost gratifying to me, but then, I remembered something. Just before the zombies broke through the window in her previous life, Norma had smugly asked my father, "Do you really think I wouldn't dare to kill you? Do you know how your mother died?" A chill ran down my spine. Could it be? Was there another reason for my grandmother's death? With this thought, I didn't hesitate to send a video call request to Adolf. In the video, Adolf jumped up. "Stop your damn crying, old hag, the little bitch is calling me." Norma abruptly stopped crying, and even Adam looked up. Adolf answered the call, and our 3 family members appeared on the screen. "Little bit," Adolf began, but Adam quickly grabbed him, squeezing out a smile and calling out to my dad, "Big brother, where are you guys? Are you all okay?" Dad scowled and snorted. "Big brother, do you have food?" "Yes," I chirped in, smiling and turning the camera towards the refrigerator filled with food and drinks. I then pointed the camera at the dining table, showcasing freshly roasted chicken legs. Adolf howled, "You have so much food. Where are you? Hurry up and bring us over." "Not so fast." I cleared my throat, addressing Norma. "I want to know how my real grandmother died." This question not only shocked Norma but also changed my parents' expressions as they all turned to look at me. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Norma exclaimed. I hardened my expression, showing them my other fridges and freezers, then said, "Think carefully. Do you want to answer my question?" Faced with my abundance of supplies, greed flickered in the eyes of the 3 on the screen. They screamed, "Where are you? How do you have so much food?" I remained silent, and so did my parents. Suddenly, Adolf slapped Norma hard across the face. "You old hag, aren't you going to tell them? You want to starve me to death?" Norma burst into tears and tried to lie her way out, but I just sneered without a word. Adolf lunged forward, punching and kicking. "You're still lying at this time. Do you really want to see me starve to death?" Finally, Norma admitted that she had poisoned my grandmother's food with rat poison. The reason was simple. My grandfather was a skilled carpenter who could earn money and was good to my grandmother, whereas the man she married was not only lazy but also abusive towards her, so she was jealous of my grandmother. Later, she also poisoned her own husband and then arranged for someone to help her marry my grandfather. My dad, tears in his eyes and teeth clenched, watched as Adolf shouted, She confessed, come and get me quickly." Then my dad suddenly smiled and said clearly, "Don't worry, I will come, but I'll only take one. Decide amongst yourselves who it will be." The next second, he cut off the video connection. The 3 people in the surveillance were silent. I picked up a roasted chicken leg, took a bite, and sent them a photo saying, "Wow, this chicken leg is really delicious. My mom said we're having hot pot tonight." The chicken leg, marinated with Orleans seasoning all morning and roasted to a golden, juicy finish, was even more succulent where I had bitten into it. Adolf glanced at his phone, jumped up, and kicked towards Norma, and I clearly saw Adam, who had been silent, picking up an ashtray from the table and walking towards Adolf. "Stop watching," my dad said, covering my eyes and turning off the surveillance feed. "Don't dirty your eyes." I hugged my dad from behind and gently patted his back. "Don't be sad. We've avenged Grandma." My mom also wrapped her arms around us. What goes around comes around. It's all in the past now. Being together as a family is what matters most. Indeed, nothing beats that. We all smiled. A week later, when we turned on the surveillance from the Eastern District again, only Adam was left. He was indeed the most ruthless, willing to kill even his mother and son to survive. The elderly Norma and the sedentary Adolf stood no chance against him. I checked the chat box with Adolf. It was full of messages from Adam, ranging from ecstatic pleas for us to come get him, to furious curses when he got no reply, to groveling appeals. I blocked Adolf's account. Now only Adam was left in Norma's family, and I couldn't care less about his fate. What did surprise me were the residents of the Eastern District. Their vegetables had started to sprout, still without supplies. They faced a dire shortage at this point. I delivered a second surprise. In that district, my family owned 2 garages, and the other was also stocked with food, this time entirely with rice. This was the first batch of supplies I had the warehouse supermarket deliver. Instant noodles and water were the second batch. I considered as a wealthy second-generation individual, money was not an issue for me. I couldn't foresee all the uses for the supplies I bought, but I thought, what if they were needed, saving lives, ensuring my family's safety? The residents wept with joy, sincerely thanking me, with some even offering to pay me. I don't need the money, just do me another favor. In a few days, the residents united like never before, cooking rice into porridge, which the elderly and children ate 3 times a day, and everyone else twice a day, all lining up to receive their portion, to avoid detection by outsiders. All of this was carried out in the basement. With this stock of rice, I believe they could last until the potatoes and sweet potatoes were ready to harvest. Time flies, and before we know it, it's already summer. The cave is comfortably cool in summer and warm in winter. My mom, holding a cup of soy milk, sips and sighs. This really is a wonderful place. My dad nods in agreement. Over the years, they had always been busy with business, rarely having a moment of leisure. Now, the family spends every day together, tending to vegetables and fruits, cooking meals, and drinking tea, blissfully unaware of the passage of time beyond the mountains. Holding my iPad, I access the surveillance feed of the Eastern District community and am shocked to find Adam is still alive, with no food. How could he possibly? But then, I throw the iPad aside and scream. My parents pick up the iPad and their faces turn pale as well. On the living room floor, only the skeletons of Norma and Adolf remain. My mom immediately spits out the soy milk she had just swallowed. Adam died half a month later. After confirming his death, I asked the residents to help me enter the house and clear away their bodies. The residents, eager to repay me, also cleaned up the house. Their fruits had begun to yield a rich harvest, and although they had feared being raided, it hadn't happened. But soon, we had an answer. Someone deployed drones and discovered that there were still many survivors in the city, each community fortified like a fortress, all finding ways to survive on their own. I couldn't know how they managed, but online videos clearly showed the determination on the faces of every survivor. As summer gave way to winter, and winter to spring, my parents and I had lived on the mountain for 3 years. During these 3 years, the number of zombies neither increased nor decreased, and the cries from below were still often heard. Through a telescope, the streets were overgrown with wild grass. However, throughout these 3 years, we never lost electricity or communication, and the residents below told us that water had never been cut off either. Through the internet, everyone knew that our government was still operating, and our military was fighting in the most dangerous places. This gave everyone confidence, but what moved me the most was that all the survivors, while waiting for government rescue, were also striving to live on. They not only helped themselves but also worked hard to help others. Each year, the residents of the Eastern District community set aside a large amount of seeds to send to other communities via drones. After harvesting, these communities would also join in distributing seeds. More and more people shared their joy of a bountiful harvest online, and more people saw hope. I think this is the power of unity.